Okay, I'm gonna go live now. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I pressed it.
What?
All right, we are live. What's up,
Hi.
everybody? Shams
Love
is here.
that voice. I think you should do the whole show in that
Yeah,
voice.
let's go. That's what.
Let's go.
That's what I'm learning. Actually, I've been watching Big Brother this season.
Oh, that's got to be like a let's go, like smorgasbord.
I
right
like young
there.
people love saying "Let's go." Anytime
Oh,
anything good happens, you win the challenge. You're like, "Let's go!"
I know, and it's actually like so ubiquitous now that like I can't remember how people used to celebrate.
They'd be like, "All right, maybe."
Yes, and like me
Yes.
as like an old dad is like, what do you mean? Let's go. You just went.
Exactly. Also on Survivor, someone yelled "Let's go" on the last episode.
No spoilers.
Someone said "Let's go." Sorry.
Now I'm gonna be waiting, and I know that moment's
It's not even
coming.
going to be funny anymore.
Can't believe that. Do I sound okay, by the way?
Yeah, sound great.
Do I sound like loud enough?
Yeah, you sound. I like it.
Okay.
Shams and Norm. Shams,
Too
really
loud?
quick.
Is this
Any
good?
updates on Zach Benson? Is he making the team or what?
We love Zach, the Benson cast.
I'm starting the show on Benson, and I don't even know the latest update on Benson.
Well, that's a faux
Let me open
pas
Twitter.
right there.
I'm going to search Twitter for Benson and see if there's anything new that hasn't been retweeted yet. Zach. I mean, obviously he's going to make the team, right? Like, how could he not? This freaking guy.
He seems ready, man.
I mean, yeah, he scores every game. They're like, no, not good enough. If I was him and I didn't make the team, I'd be like, well, why did you even invite me to the training camp then? Just to get my hopes up. All right. Well, so I guess we'll just assume that he made the team.
Well, we should. We don't need to like make any assumption. We can just like
we'll just say he's good. Yeah, but also I guess it's possible. Anyways, we'll talk about it on the show. All right, let's start. I guess we can start the show.
I can't wait to talk about it on the show.
Yeah, might as well.
Shams. Norm. I'm waiting for Norm to say yeah.
Do you want me to play Norm for you? Just something to work off of.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, what's up?
That's nice. I thought you were gonna use like your jock voice from earlier.
I don't know Norm's voice.
I don't know Norm's voice either.
Nice person's voice.
Thank you for answering. Like we have like people asking like how to set up Yahoo leagues and whatever, and like you've been all over that. And thank you. Like that's been like a really nice little niche you've been filling. So I see you and I appreciate you. Like everyone's really great at helping everyone, but like I see those Yahoo like league setup, and I'm just like, oh, I hope someone else has already covered this, so that like I don't need to like try and like type it out on my phone. And it's like, yes, Norm's been there.
Yeah, Norm's been helping people for a long time.
Norm is thanking you.
Great member of the community. One of the top 10, I think.
Oh yeah, Norm is way up in the power rankings, the patron power rankings.
Yeah, one day we should make this
PPRs. One day we should do an episode, patrons board, more patrons board.
Yeah, Kevin could whip us up a bunch of stats of like who's answering a lot.
Oh, that reminds me, I had a request for Kevin.
Well, too late. Gotta start the show.
No, I'm gonna make it now.
Okay, but don't make him do like a lot of work and then like not even remember to actually like check to see if he responded, and then it's like
your biggest fear.
Yeah, Kevin is a valuable resource. I don't know. I don't even think we used his like draft sheet that much for the last episode. I don't know.
I used it intensely.
Oh, okay, good.
Jeez.
I don't. I don't think that Shams should be eligible for the patron ranking because, like, obviously you're doing shows on the like. I mean, it's just like wait, what? Okay, Lewis, Shams, and Jeremy
contributors
and Kevin are like the top
ineligible.
4. Kind of boring.
Ineligible.
Yeah. It's known.
It's like when you open a bank account and you have to say like if you know anyone who like works in securities or something. What's a PIP?
Isn't it called a PIP? A person of political interest person, something like that. Yeah. I think there's like a term PIP.
Or like when you enter a contest, it's like if your family member works for the company.
Oh, maybe it was PEP actually, politically exposed person.
Oh, that sounds more likely.
All right. Let's go.
They're all politically exposed.
Okay.
To us.
I'm gonna start, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, welcome everybody to another episode of Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the longest running fantasy hockey podcast in the world, hosted by two guys who totally won't be staying up until 3 a.m. adjusting our fab bids for the cupful tonight. I'm your host, Elon Dubrovsky, and really excited for this show. The preseason is over, and I've got the best person possible with me to break down at least one observation from every single team as we head into the season. It is the IPP MVP, the fantasy hockey robot, the poopa of prognostication. You know him, you love him, Brian Com. How's it going, Brian?
Hey, Elon, I'm good. I'm feeling really loved right now, thanks to your introduction, and I'm loving this time of year. Like, we're finally past the preseason, like, well, almost. But basically, we can actually look at what has happened most recently and start trying to make some guesses. And yes, make too many. I have, let me see. I think I have 25 waiver claims, and I actually need to double that because I'm going to probably be setting up another roster spot that I'm going to try and replace because I took Dennis. I took Dennis Gurianov because he's a line one power play one and playing choice in the first 3 nights, and he's been waived. I don't know if he cleared, but I don't think
he did. You'll be able to add him in your AHL fantasy league, but I don't think he's going to be too helpful for you in the NHL one.
So I gotta shuffle him out for. Honestly, Elon, this show is going to be me sharing what I know, but also I'm going to be gleaning some research from all of your hard work and efforts too. This is going to be as always, an invaluable Sunday night experience for all of us to try and get ready for the first fantasy week ahead. Woohoo!
Right. But of course, we both have to make a vow right now to not try to downplay the people that we plan on making bids for. So for people who don't know what we're talking about, the Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Fantasy League, every single division drafted, and we turned on the leagues on Saturday. So everyone's waivers for filling all those initial spots, like if you drafted anyone who's since gone like day to day or something, like tonight is the night where we're all making our claims. We have $100 of fab that's only for waivers. And so, yeah, we're all going to be bidding against each other in our different divisions. And so Brian, we have to make a vow to not downplay anyone to try to bring down the price. Though I will say that, like, Zach Benson, like, how good can he really be? Right?
Him.
Like, there's no way he's good.
Yeah, we'll take him, but like, we're just taking that bullet for everyone.
I'll throw $1, but like, I'm not gonna go crazy. But anyway, this is gonna be a really fun show. My plan is I came up with an observation at least for each team. The order is my order of interest. So, because I know how we are. We sometimes spend a long time at the start of the show and then we have to hurry up at the end. So I figured we might as well hurry up on the ones where I didn't find as interesting. But I think there's at least something to say on every team. So that's going to be a blast. We'll see how long it takes. Of course, Dauber Hockey presents this show, and we're super proud to be able to say that every week. And probably you can still get the guide. It's awesome. It's still being updated. But and also all the great content over on that site is going to be invaluable as the season gets started. So check it out, dauberhockey.com. But with that, Brian, let's just get into it. And let's go to the Buffalo Sabres for this guy who was just drafted, a couple months ago. Very rare that players who were taken in the draft, have a chance of making the team. But this guy, Zach Benson on the Buffalo Sabres, a team that's already stacked with a bunch of young prospects. Of all the teams, I would have been like, there's no way the guy that was just drafted in this most recent draft is going to have a chance. But he's dominated the preseason, 7 points in 6 preseason games. Benson was on the top line for a bit with Skinner and Thompson. Then they moved him off the line. And I was seeing a lot of people tweeting and saying maybe this is a test to see how good. Sure, he's looking good on the top line. Let's see how he does, with some other players. He played on a line with Middlestat and Greenway, scored a goal in the last game also. So obviously we don't have final confirmation, but he hasn't been, sent down yet. So it seems like Zach Benson's probably going to make the Sabres. Of course, it could just be the kind of thing where it's a 9-game trial, but the Sabres are not a rebuilding team anymore. This is a team that's going to try to make the playoffs. So obviously we don't know, but I think, Brian, in general for this show, actually, before I throw to you, let's not dig too deep into anything. I think this will be more of just an info dump and to kind of give everyone kind of our hype meter, how excited are we about these different players? But who knows? Obviously, it's hard to predict what's going to happen, and I'd rather do quantity over quality, I think. But all that said, Zach Benson, if he's available in people's free agencies at he is in my couple division because my division drafted pretty quickly. We should go for him, right? He's worth grabbing, and then you wait and see, right? But you can't leave a guy who got 7 points in 6 preseason games just in free agency for someone else to get.
7 points in 6 preseason games, which it was kindly mentioned by LeBron Stein, or I don't know if that's his fault. It was mentioned on X. I'm gonna call it Twitter. that Benson's 7 points exceed 18-year-old Jack Eichel's rookie preseason. And it's a Jonah Bronstein. He just has a Twitter handle that's not his name, who tweeted that the other night. So that's
like name dropping. I don't know who this person is. I don't know
either. He's the guy who tweeted it. I wanted to credit the person who tweeted it, but
you said it in the longest way possible.
It was terrible. It was a really bad. Like the page was loading, and I guess I was killing time. But Zach Benson, yeah, holy cow, what a preseason for this guy, taken 13th overall in the draft. And maybe one of the reasons he fell so far is because, well, depending on where you look, he's 5'9" or 5'10", and he's like 155 or 160 pounds. Obviously taken behind 12 other guys, most of whom will not be starting the year in the NHL. Most of the guys after, like you said, Elon, it's exceedingly rare to see an 18-year-old, especially who's not a top 3 or 5 even pick, getting into the opening night lineup. But it looks like Zach Benson's on his way to doing that. And if you can get a piece, absolutely. I think he's the hype man coming into the regular season this year, and we'll see if it sticks. But and you mentioned, Elon, on all the teams, like of Buffalo, Jack Quinn being injured maybe actually helped this situation, and JJ Paterka is still there's a lot of guys still in Buffalo that we're going to be watching for to see what kind of impact they have. But yeah, Zach Benson's in a great spot to produce. And by the way, I saw Casey. I'll just toss it out there. Like Casey Middlestat, for whatever I think of him, he's shown some flashes beyond what he was showing in the earliest portion of his career. But I'm seeing every time you Google best sleepers, I was doing a draft with some friends, and I was looking at all their screens around me as the draft began, and everyone was reading just Googling best sleepers hockey 2023, and Casey Middlestat was on all these lists, and I feel like I hadn't heard that myself, so I'll toss that out there too. But I'd rather have Zach Benson.
Sure, but it is true about Casey Middlestat. He had a good year last year. He ended with 59 points in 82 games. He's the new Barrett Hayton. It's he stunk for a long time. Now he's good. I like him. And hey, if he's playing with Benson, even better. Obviously, there's going to be some nervous managers. For a while, Alex Tuck was off the top line and off the top power play in favor of Benson. I know Cousins was off the top power play for a bit. In the last game, Benson was on the second power play. But yeah, maybe it was just testing things out. So it's only room for so many. So yeah, we'll have to see how that all shakes out over in Buffalo. Definitely something to watch. Okay, next, Brian, let's go to the Edmonton Oilers. The top 6 has been basically what I would have expected. McDavid, Vander Kane, Connor Brown. Connor Brown seems to be everything that we expected. He had a 2-goal, 1-assist game versus Calgary. He's playing in the other 3 games, but he's been playing with McDavid. I really don't see anyone bumping him from the top 6. Maybe he goes to the second line, but Warren Fogle, is he the 7th best forward on the team? So I think that Connor Brown is definitely someone that you should have in your fantasy league, unless it's maybe a super shallow league because he's not getting the power play. But, Brian, I'm basic. I feel nowadays it's almost it's been ruined. Yamamoto and Puljujarvi kind of ruined it, where we used to just say, just get the guy playing with McDavid. If it's Cassian, if it's whoever. Who was that guy that started the year? There was one year, there was a guy who had ended the previous season really strong playing with McDavid, and everyone was hyping him up at the start, and then he ended up being out of the NHL in a few days. I forget. I'll check it. At some point.
Holloway.
No, this is a few years ago. This is 3 or 4 years ago. But anyway, I'm basic. You want the person playing with McDavid. Even if Puljujarvi and Yamamoto couldn't make it happen, I think Connor Brown is going to be just fine. But the reason why I'm especially interested in Edmonton is in net, because I think we've seen a shift I think we've seen a shift in preseason, at least going into the year. Obviously, it's a long season, a lot could change, but I think as of now, I think Jack Campbell has reclaimed the number 1 starter's job. He had a fantastic preseason. He played 2 games, both gems, did really well. Meanwhile, Stuart Skinner, not so good in his games already. Edmonton probably wants Campbell to be the starter. If they could choose which goalie is the one they're going to rely on, it's probably the one they're paying the big money for many years to come still. And Campbell just had a better training camp. So I'm pretty confident. You could tell me if you disagree, but I'm confident that Campbell's going to start game 1 of the season. Obviously after that, all bets are off because he has to play well in order to get game 2 and game 3. But who knows, maybe. I remember when Sergei Bobrovsky first went to Florida, he had a really terrible first year. And then after that, he sort of settled in and had a couple of good seasons. And I wonder if it's a similar situation where maybe Campbell, for whatever reason, had some trouble adjusting, but they paid him all that money for a reason. He was looking good in Toronto for a bit. So It's goalies. I don't want to wild speculation, especially based on like 2 or 3 preseason games. But all I'm going to say is I'm happy I didn't grab Skinner in any drafts because his stock has gone down. Maybe it's gone down so much, and now's a good time to like trade for Stuart Skinner if you really believe that he's going to take the job back. But right now, if Campbell's a free agent, I think he's someone definitely to look at, especially if your league values wins pretty highly. You're going to want the starter on Edmonton, and I think it's Jack Campbell right now.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't for sure. You're right. Okay. And I'll take that again. Yeah, I think the most powerful part of what you said, Elon, was that Jack Campbell, like Edmonton would be so happy to see their investment in Jack Campbell actually pay some dividends or have a chance to pay dividends. And I think that's what's to look for. Like if Campbell can give Edmonton a reason to take another chance at him and give him more starts, and they're gonna. And for whatever preseason's worth, Campbell's done that. Of course, I'll go back and mention that of any goalie who saw at least 1,000 5-on-5 unblocked shot attempts last year, Jack Campbell hit the absolute worst performance according to Delta
he was bad.
Save percentage.
He was bad last year.
No, but but I'm contextualizing the bad. He was not just bad; he was the worst. Elon, like think of what you think of Capo Kakkonen and James Reimer and Ukko-Pekka Luokkanen and Jake Allen. He was like significantly below all of those guys, except Kakkonen was kind of close. So Campbell has a hill to climb. We've seen him do well before, but only in pretty small samples. But I suppose we'll see what the future holds. And I think, like you said, Elon, the instruction here is to take a peek. And if Jack Campbell has been left to free agency, you might want to try and check him out because Edmonton's a team that's going to win a lot of games this year, regardless of who's playing in net. And then also for Stuart Skinner managers who, we had him in a pretty high tier this year. I think he was he tier 3 in our Schmore Goldies board?
Is it too late to change that? I said on the draft podcast that I thought that Skinner is not, like, I'd already started changing my mind a little bit. And I think you and Michael Clifford, which by the way, thanks so much, Michael, and all the tier 1 drafters for the crazy 4-hour show last week. It was so fun. But I think you guys were sort of being like, Elon, come on, get it, stop. But I think I was right. Yeah. I think Skinner's someone that I'm not that interested in right now.
So I'm still like interested in Skinner, like to give the context of the league last year, like Skinner was 12th out of the 36 goalies who saw like by Delta Fenwick save percentage. So Skinner played well. Yeah. Last year. Elon is over.
It's a new season finally.
It's a new season, especially for goalies. Just wipe anything that's ever happened except for like our tier 1 goalies and start over. So I think if you were counting on Stuart Skinner for volume, I think you might, and like volumes are really important in your league, then you might want to start peeking at other options. Also, if you feel like taking a swing, like you could reach out to the Skinner manager, because if Campbell does come in and not succeed, this is probably the lowest Skinner's value is going to be all year. But I'm not saying that's the right risk to take, but it is a risk that you could choose to take depending on the reward that you're prepared to that you're hoping to get from it, and the punishment you'll take if it does not work out. If Skinner, say, only starts half the team's games.
Yeah, like I think the point of this show, Brian, is we're throwing out some observations. It's up to the listeners to decide what you want to do with it. Okay, Campbell's been better than Skinner in the preseason. Make of it what you will. Okay, next, let's go to the Ottawa Senators. Brian, your Ottawa Senators. I'm here in Ottawa right now. To anyone watching the video, I'm sorry that my mouth is completely covered by this microphone. It's a whole new setup. I'm in my brother-in-law Misha's room, so thanks to Misha for helping make this show happen. But yeah, the Ottawa Senators of the news is just like Josh Norris. This shoulder of his is like effed. Like, I don't even know. Like, there's just news coming out every day. Like, he's like there, but he's not like practicing, but he's watching. Then, oh, I actually did get into something and not. And then there's news like saying like, oh, maybe he should have, not rehabbed and had more surgery. I don't even know. So right now, it doesn't seem like he's out indefinitely, I think is the word. So I don't know, Brian, if you've heard anything on Jock Talk Radio about Josh Norris.
Yeah, I tune into Jock Talk Radio in Ottawa every day. And well, I mean, the latest is it's just been a string of like very confusing information about him being close, but not close. And then the head coach, DJ Smith, really just basically like, even though Norris is officially day-to-day, DJ Smith at least burst what felt like a lot of bubbles about any expectation that Norris was close to being ready. Like, my joke is that Norris is day-to-day to day-to-day to day-to-day to day. Like, we don't know. Like, day-to-day, I wouldn't take it the way we normally would. So,
and maybe he does come back and then plays like
Gets
2
hurt
games
again.
and then realizes, oh no, it's not good. And then he's out for 2 months.
Something hasn't gone right. Like he chose, from what I've heard and read, Josh Norris chose to rehab instead of surgery, his shoulder. And like, of course, that opens up some unfavorable outcomes. And here we are. So I don't know. Like I almost drafted Josh Norris in the Cupful, kkupfl.com. And I didn't. And I'm glad. I'm sorry to anyone who did, because he would have been a great pick. But yeah, I wouldn't like go ahead and stash, but I'm not expecting him back anytime soon, which means absolutely nothing. Like he could play in the 3rd game of the season for all we know. It's just been a very cloudy picture. And like you said, Elon, even if Norris does draw into the lineup, I'm on pins and needles watching the guy play.
Yeah, and if you're a Sens fan, obviously you're pretty miffed about the whole situation. They still haven't signed Shane Pinto. I feel like he's probably got some good leverage now if Norris isn't going to play. The Sens are obviously going for it this year. I saw some line combinations today for their practice. Kachuk, Stützle, Giroux. So that's their like awesome top line. That's probably not getting broken up. But then they split up Batherson and Tarasenko. I guess they're both right wings. So like Matthew Joseph, Ridley Gregg, and Batherson on one line. Then Kubalik, a guy named Chartier, and Tarasenko on another line. Also, the power plays got some time today, and it was Batherson, Stützle, Giroux, Kachuk, and Shabbat on the top power play, leaving Tarasenko with a couple awesome defensemen in Chychrun and Sanderson, but then also Kubalik and a guy named Smekal, who has since been sent to the minors. So I think that if you drafted Vladimir Tarasenko, I think my takeaway from these lines, and obviously things can change, a lot could change, blah, blah, blah. Tarasenko, like line 3 power play 2 was probably not the guy you were hoping to get when you drafted him. So you're hoping something will change, because right now Tarasenko is not looking too exciting from his deployment.
No, and this was the concern in Ottawa, right? Although I don't think we expected line 3 Tarasenko to be a possibility, but or to be likely. But here we are. Second power play was kind of predictable, although there was the thought. But the top power play unit in Ottawa works very well, even with Thomas Shabbat, who doesn't necessarily cash in there. But that power play is a really strong unit. So I feel, and a big question, of course, all preseason has been with Shabbat, Sanderson, and Chychrun, who's going to QB the first unit. And we see the incumbent Shabbat looking like he's going to get first crack, along with all the other regular folks up there, with Tarasenko bumped to the second, with Kubalik, Chychrun, Sanderson, and we'll find out, which is still like not a bad second unit, but I doubt it's going to be like a equal time scenario. So if you have Tarasenko, early returns just from deployment aren't great. If you have Giroux, early returns are looking great, top line, top power play. And if you have Batherson, it's sort of mixed results. Like Batherson being guaranteed Stützle or Norris as a center was like a really big thumbs up for me. Like I was like, okay, well, like he can't really land in a bad place on the depth chart, and I expect him to be top power play. And then with Norris out, that sort of messes things up a little bit. So we'll see. I mean, we might be about to find out just how much Batherson can do on his own. Like Ridley Gregg and Matthew Joseph, both NHL players, but are they second liners? Not so sure.
Yeah, Batherson has had a really good preseason for what it's worth, 6 points in 4 games. So we'll see. He's definitely not someone I'm as nervous about as Tarasenko, like you said. Also, I'll mention quickly in net, I think we might have had a little bit of a shift, not like as crazy as Edmonton, but Anton Forsberg has been insanely good. 957 save percentage in his 3 games. This is a guy who, like, what was it? I didn't look it up right before, but he like broke like tore both of something, like a really terrible injury, tore both his knees up last year. I was worried, like, is he ever going to be the same? Like, he's looking really good. This is a guy who we thought going into last season that he could be like the starter, right? Like and then, this was a shame. And in the meantime, they've gotten Korpisalo, who's also looked good in training camp. So I don't think it's like a kind of thing where Forsberg's taking over, but I could see them being close to 50-50. I guess we'll have to see. And like, I think overall, just as a Sens fan, Brian, imagine this team with good goaltending. When's the last time the Sens have had that? Like, you have to go back to Craig Anderson, right? Like, this would be pretty exciting if the Sens could have 2 really strong goalies to go with their 3 amazing defensemen and their 4 or 5 amazing forwards. This could be huge, but obviously we'll see. But I'm happy to see Forsberg is doing well.
Yeah, I mean, the Sens need all the help in net they can get. Like you mentioned, Craig Anderson, who was the one goaltending decision that the club has made in the last decade plus. That's worked out when they traded Brian Elliott for Craig Anderson. And of course, bringing Joonas Korpisalo is just, we've talked enough about it, but I don't think he's invincible. I don't think he's guaranteed 50 starts, even depending on how he plays and how Forsberg plays. I could see Korpisalo getting I feel like, Elon, we're back right where we were last year at this time, where it was Forsberg and Talbot, and the Sens had traded Philip Gustafsson and gotten Cam Talbot. And we're like, okay, yeah, they'll play the guy that they brought in. He'll start. And then if he stumbles, Forsberg will step up. And then neither one of them really stepped up. And Forsberg was injured a bunch. Talbot missed some time too. So we'll see. Like all bets are off here. Honestly, if you told me, like, I'd guess Korpisalo is more likely to get starts, but I wouldn't put like huge odds on it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Korpisalo looks a lot less interesting with Forsberg doing so well. Okay, let's go now to the Colorado Avalanche, where Mikko Rantanen has missed a lot of the preseason, but apparently he's expected for opening night, so don't worry about him. So the lines that we've been seeing with Rantanen in the lineup have been McKinnon, Rantanen, and Jonathan Drouin. So he's someone we expected when they got him, like, oh, McKinnon and Drouin, they played together in junior, blah, blah, blah. So that's still been sticking. I think that's going to last, at least for a while. And then leaving Nichushkin and Lehkonen to play with Ryan Johansson, the newly acquired second line center for the team. And so that's kind of what we expected going to the year. I guess we didn't know for sure if like McKinnon and Rantanen would be together or not. But the big surprise, I think, has been the top power play, where you've been seeing Makar, obviously there, McKinnon, Rantanen, but then it's been Ryan Johansson and Arturi Lehkonen, leaving out Nichushkin, leaving out Valerie Nichushkin to toil on the second power play with the likes of Devon Taves, like, good players, but like, like Ottawa, obviously you're going to want the guys in the top power play just for the time on ice. So I think Nichushkin, you're obviously a little bit nervous about. You're hoping that something will change. And for Lehkonen, I guess, whatever, same as probably we expected. He had a lot of top power play last year also. But I guess the big names here that might still be free agents in your league, even after your draft, are like Jonathan Drouin on the top line, and then Ryan Johansson, second line center. And I want to focus in on Johansson because I recall another second line center on this team a couple years ago that was on the top power play and had a monster season in Nazem Kadri, right? He was literally, well, I mean, not literally in the same spot, because I guess he had slightly different line mates. He had Burakovsky, but I think Nichushkin and Lehkonen are pretty good line mates, right? So I think Ryan Johansson is in a really good spot. He's got 2 power play goals in his 3 preseason games. So maybe Ryjo could be back a little bit. I don't know if he's going to go all the way to what Kadri did, like getting like 100-point pace or whatever it was a couple years ago, but I don't see why Ryjo can't be I don't know, 60 plus point guy, something he hasn't been for a while, if he's getting second line center and top power play all season long.
It's a really great place to be. And he's a different player than Kadri. He's older than Kadri. I don't know if he's more fragile than Kadri, but it's definitely...
I don't think he's older than Kadri. I think they're both around 30, 31.
I thought Ryan Johansson is okay. Here, I'm looking up live. I maybe I'm confusing him with Cam Atkinson. I thought he was 30.
Yeah, stop with Cam. Every episode you talk about how old Cam Atkinson
is. Sorry, I knew there's one guy who I always forget how old he is. It's not Ryan Johansson. Okay, all right. Well, still a different kind of player.
Kadri shoots more for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see how that gels with the line. But yeah, you're with Lehkonen and Nichushkin, who have both played on the top line, and I'm like, they're both top line players, except I don't know if we can really call them that for sure, because they've always played with like an elite player who can pull them up even if they're not, but they're good. I'm not going to take anything away from them. It's a really interesting opportunity for Ryan Johansson and Jonathan Drouin. Just one like general tip, by the way, as we're looking at who you might want to add early in the season. Like if you're in a competitive enough league, you're going to need to go for it like every week, right? And you don't really have time to wait on players who might not play very many games for you. So for example, I'm just pointing this out, like Ryan Johansson plays Wednesday at LA, and then again Saturday on a busy schedule. So if he's not already on your roster, it might be unlikely that he's actually going to play for you on Saturday, which means you get 1 day out of him this week, and you're basically waiting like a while, right, to get an actually like reasonable size sample of games to decide whether or not he's a hold. So like if you're picking up a guy that you're just looking for short term, you might want to focus on someone who's going to play a couple games, and you can go to kakupful.com fantasy tools, and you can get a link to Elon's weekly schedule and roster maximizer tool that he's built to try and get a handle. Because otherwise you are just literally waiting on a player. And that's cool. You can choose to do that, but you just have to be aware of how long you might be waiting to get the 3 to 5 games you might be hoping to see before making a decision.
Yeah, well, even if you bench him on Saturday, you could still watch and see how he does. But yeah, I think I'm bringing up Ryan Johansson as a potential season hold if like he holds his position, so it might be worth it. But obviously things can change, but usually top power play. Like, I mean, Valerie Nichushkin is also very good. So it could be a couple games that Nichushkin goes back on the top power play. So we'll have to wait and see.
It sounds like if anyone was bumped by Nichushkin, it would be Lehkonen because they're both playing net front.
Okay, well, so this will be very interesting. Okay, Brian, let's take a break, and then we'll go through some more teams that I find interesting. Actually, we're going to go through all the teams, but these are the teams. We're still at the point where there's a lot of interesting stuff going on with a lot of teams here. So we'll be back in just a sec. Okie dokie, we are back, Brian. I want to go to Detroit. Okay, you don't like that? You're making a face. I shouldn't make that my new catchphrase.
No, I loved it. I would love it. Like if you came in from every ad break that way.
Okie dokie. What did Wilson say on Home Improvement? He had a catchphrase because I feel like him right now because you can't see my mouth. But didn't he have a catchphrase that he said? And I know Tim the Toolman said Heidi Ho Neighborino. Or no, that's Flanders. I don't actually remember the catchphrases on Home Improvement. Someone maybe in the chat could let me know. But okay. Didn't he say Heidi Ho? Maybe or it was Heidi, his assistant.
I feel like there was a Heidi Ho from Tim the Toolman.
Okay, let's go to Detroit, Brian. Okay, so they've been trying a lot of different people with Larkin and DeBrincat. We've seen Lucas Raymond there. We've seen David Perron there. Most recently, Michael Rasmussen, who I remember from last year was on the top line for stretches, and we were talking about Michael Rasmussen on the podcast, and he had a couple good games. So I wonder if he's going to be there again. That's obviously a really good spot. It's kind of like Jonathan Drouin, who we just talked about. It's like McKinnon, Rantanen, and who? Drouin? Okay. And now it's like, Larkin, DeBrincat, and Michael Rasmussen. Sure. Give me the guy that's on that top line. So definitely someone you should look at in your deeper leagues. That's left Compher center. Do you remember, Brian, that Compher went to Detroit?
Yeah.
Food for thought. It's like Compher went to Detroit and Kerfoot went to Arizona. For some reason, I always confuse those two. But okay, Compher, Raymond, and Perron, then line two. We'll see. It'll probably shift around. Also interesting on the power play, right? It's been pretty much all preseason. Shane Gostisbehere and Moritz Seider both on the top power play with Larkin, DeBrincat, and I think it's also even shifted who's there, but Perron most recently there. So that's your top power play. And so Shane Gostisbehere, I got him decently late in my couple draft once I saw he was doing well. And he's had a good preseason, right? 4 assists in 4 games. Wouldn't mind more shots and more goals, but obviously that's why he's falling. But Gostisbehere has been good in the past. He was good at the start of last year when he was getting top power play in Arizona. So he's definitely someone to watch. And yeah, I guess the only last thing I'll say about Detroit is Larkin and DeBrincat are both doing really well in preseason. So whoever they play with, that person's interesting, but also, yeah, for anyone who reached for Larkin or DeBrincat in their drafts, I think early returns are looking pretty sweet.
Yeah, hopefully it's a really nice combo for the two of them. And that someone, the third person in that trio right now, Michael Rasmussen, can get in on some of the action. By the way, it is being confirmed. Elon Wilson said Heidi Ho neighbor.
Okay.
Yeah, so you nailed it. You just added like neighborino in there. And I'm also, do you know what Wilson's last name was?
No.
or what his first name was?
I don't. I'm sorry.
Wilson.
Okay.
His official name. Yeah. Fun little tidbit. The things you learn listening to our show. Okay. So we're talking about Michael Rasmussen on the top line. Okay. And you mentioned Shane Gostisbehere too. Yeah, great. Like that's really nice early returns for anybody who did grab Shane Gostisbehere as they watched every other defenseman go. I was like, okay, the only one left that I'm willing to have is my third D. And I think I'm looking at you there, Elon, or fourth D2. And I will mention one sort of loser in preseason so far, which is Lucas Raymond, looking like line 2, power play 2, at least as of a couple days ago. So we'll see how things actually line up when we get to the regular season. But that concerns me a little for anybody looking at having some Lucas Raymond shares this year. It would be great if he could be on the top line and have that opportunity to really succeed. But we've seen that that's not a lock for him. This is age 21 season. Last year, Raymond had 50 points, took fewer than 2 shots per game. So I'm curious to find out if his role does increase this year, like if he's earned an increased role or if they're still like in the development phase here for the 4th overall pick back from 2020.
Yeah, I know. I think that Raymond was falling pretty far in drafts. So you already were getting him at the discount for this fear that he wasn't like a lock for top line or top power play. But yeah, I guess it is so far kind of the worst case scenario for people who drafted him. But things could change quickly, of course. keep in mind, as you're listening to this show, I hope we've made it clear. Brian and I are not saying any of this stuff is like things we're sure about or we expect it to last. Like things could change very quickly. We just want to make sure everyone is up to speed, you know exactly what's going on going into the season, and why not take some swings in free agency to start just in case something sticks. Maybe Michael Rasmussen is a top liner for years to come on the Detroit Red Wings. Okay, let's go next to the Bruins. Oh, Shams is saying in the chat here that Gostisbehere was actually bumped from the top power play for some of the preseason, but then he ended back where he started. So maybe that's something that could also be in flux. But for now, he's been there. Okay, Boston Bruins, Brian. This is actually a shocker. This one I did not expect. Have you noticed that Jake DeBrusk has not been on the top power play in Boston? I would have assumed with Bergeron gone, like, I didn't think Jake DeBrusk's job was at risk, but if you look at the top power play recently, it's been McAvoy on the back, and then Marchand, Pasternak, Zacha, and James Van Riemsdyk, who the Bruins signed as a free agent. And James Van Riemsdyk has also been on the top line. Do you call it the top line? I guess so. Zacha and Pasternak. Marchand's probably the second line with Coyle and DeBrusk.
Yeah.
So JVR, Brian, you love JVR. You used to always talk on the podcast about how people should, like, well past when you should have, you were telling people to look at JVR over in Philly. So are you going to keep it up now and recommend to grab JVR as a top line, top power play winger on the Bruins with David Pasternak?
I'm trying to decide if that was like a compliment or just like an underhanded, how underhanded that was as a comment.
It wasn't a compliment, but it was just kind of like an observation.
Yeah. Well, like James Van Riemsdyk was okay. Yes, I have been high on James Van Riemsdyk longer than I should have been, but apparently the Bruins are too. I mean, first off, I actually think the first angle here is that like Jake DeBrusk, like, who seemed to have such a hard time finding a foothold with a coach and getting the deployment. Like he's already he turns 27 next week. He's no young buck here, and he just can never really get or earn enough trust or rope or whatever to get a long look. And I thought after his performance last year he'd be there, especially with all the departures, but no. Right now it's James Van Riemsdyk leading the deployment war between them. Although, like, I can see the justification for it, at least at even strength. But on the power play, it's a really interesting role for Van Riemsdyk to try and play. Van Riemsdyk on the power play he was good there in Toronto for like 3 years, and outside of that, he's never really been a big power play producer. He's actually rarely been. Outside those few years in Toronto, he's rarely been on a top unit with any measure of consistency. So it's curious to see him getting a chance to play a new role here in his age 34 season. Elon, top line, top power play, like you said. If we're being basic about it, which we are, that is at least worth a watch list. I don't know if he'll be like one of my rapidly growing, like now I'm up to 30 pending ads for when waivers clear in my Cupful division. Shout out to Tier 4 Jokerit. But he's at least going to be someone I'm watching to see if he can hold up there, because I think if he's allowed to shoot, which it feels like Van Riemsdyk has not been allowed to do for at least the last season, maybe the last season and a bit, then there's a chance that he could start being productive again. But maybe at best you're looking at kind of like an Alex Killorn type season where there's these little runs because of the deployment, but there's a lot of nothingness in between.
Yeah, I mean, Alex Killorn was a pretty good hold for a lot of last year, so that wouldn't be the worst if he can replicate that 64 points at the end of the day. So we'll have to see. And yeah, Brian, I think that probably you're not going to get JVR, at least to start. Like, I think someone's going to grab him. I would guess. I'd be surprised if there isn't someone who takes a shot.
He could fly off the shelf. But again, like going back to not wanting to wait to find out about guys, like, well, I want to be able to use those roster spots. So he would be a hard one for me to be waiting on. But I agree. Like he's worth a shot to someone, possibly me. I promise I'm not downplaying him on purpose. It's just been a long time since it's been the last 2 years have been pretty bad for Van Riemsdyk, 40-point pace. So we'll see if he can get anything back up with some new rejuvenated deployment.
Yeah, Andy in the chat here is saying that DeBrusk is going to get back on top power play really soon, and he's got Bergeron as his profile picture. So gotta trust that he knows what he's talking about. So that's something to consider as well. By the way, shout out to Lewis and his crazy long shift that he dropped. Also, I think also shout out to Lewis for his intro to this episode, which he's going to be sending us. We haven't heard it yet, but I think by the time we edit this and put it together, the night before hockey annual tradition. So Louis Ezekiel crushing it on our feed. But yeah, Brian, I'm not even done yet. But Louis just went through, as the last episode, his entire couple draft, his thought process through every pick and some players that went before and after. It was a really fun hour. Well, I'm about 40 minutes through, but yeah, definitely people go check that out. Subscribe to Keeping Karlsson for all the great short shifts episodes, as well as obviously our long shifts like today. And even sometimes you get a long shift and a short shift. It gets very confusing. But okay, Brian, let's next go to the Calgary Flames. All right. So things have gone a little differently than we expected at the start of training camp. It seemed at the start that Yegor Sharangovich was going to be getting some really prime deployment with Lindholm and Huberdeau on the top line, on the top power play. That's changed. If you drafted him, if you added him somewhere, I think you could cut bait at this point. Sharangovich has fallen down and down and down. And now lately he's been on the third line with Backlund, for what it's worth, and Coronado, who like a lot of people are like excited about Coronado. But at the end of the day, line 3, power play 2 when I'm looking at the lines. So we'll see. But yeah, obviously the shine has come off a bit for Sharangovich, and in his place, a longtime Flame that maybe now is finally getting an opportunity that people have been waiting for. Andrew Mangiapane has been on the top line with Lindholm and Huberdeau, and also on the top power play with those two and Kadri and Rasmus Andersson. So I think of all the potentially available guys in free agency on Calgary, I think it's Andrew Mangiapane, the one that you want to look at, right? Like, he only has 1 goal and no assists in his 4 preseason games. But again, just like with JVR, hard not to want the top line, top power play guy who's playing with talented players.
Yeah, and Mangiapane's spent time in this role on and off through the past like year and a bit, right? So it's not brand new to him, and it's also not brand new to see Mangiapane like get up and then get down for like up and down the depth chart. Also, like last season, I don't know if you remember, Elon, but Mangiapane was like a big like draft sleeper pick. Like everyone was, oh yeah, like this is the year he busts out, and like Mangiapane does have some good underlying numbers. Former 6th round pick, by the way, back in 2015. So he's doing pretty well for himself, given that low pedigree that he came into the league with. But now in his age 27 season, Mangiapane's coming off. He had 55-point pace a couple years back. Last year, just a 43-point pace, but his shooting percentage was like half, maybe, of what it should have been, or a little less than half of what it should have been. So 43 points last year for Mangiapane's pace doesn't adequately describe that. It was probably a 50-ish point season. And I think if he holds top line, top power play, which is a big if, then he might turn into that sleeper that everyone thought he was going to be last year at this time. I know he's sort of like the boring pick. For like at the end of drafts, no one's really picking him because it feels like the upside's limited. But this could be, if this look stays, Elon, this would be like his first like permanently long extended look, and I don't see a whole lot of other options there to really displace him. I mean, we've seen
Dylan. You haven't been listening to John Reed in our group chat.
We've seen Adam Ruzich. I've seen that. We've seen Walker Duehr. Like, we've seen all these a bunch of guys. It's not Frankie Coronado, by the way. It's Matt. There's a Frankie Corrado.
Frankie. Okay.
Oh, did I imagine it?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay. All right. My bad.
Okay. Anyways, yeah. So we'll see. I wouldn't go so far as to say there's no competition, but Mangiapane seems like, why not give him a shot? Maybe he kind of reminds me of like Jake DeBrusk last year, right? Where we were like, yeah, he's had shots, he's never lasted, and then last year he went off. So maybe this year DeBrusk loses it, and Mangiapane takes his place. Okay, let's go next to the Columbus Blue Jackets, Brian. That's another team where things have kind of changed from the start of training camp to the end. At first, it was looking like Fantilli and Patrick Laine were having like great chemistry, and Fantilli was going to center a line with him, and then Gaudreau was going to be on another line. So that's all changed, at least as far as the last couple of games, the last couple of practices. Now we've been seeing a top line of Gaudreau, Laine, and Marchenko. So if you remember, Brian, one sec. What's his name? Sorry, I forgot. Oh, it's Kirill. Okay, remember, Brian?
Oh, Elon, you're muted. Sorry, I thought you were still like warming up. I can barely see your mouth.
Oh no, I was talking for so long.
It was like 6 seconds.
So Brian, if you remember, I'll just start the whole thing over. Okay. Let's go next to the Columbus Blue Jackets, Brian, where that's another team actually where things have changed a lot from the beginning of training camp. until now. Like at the start of training camp, it was looking like Adam Fantilli was going to be centering Patrick Laine. People were saying how they had like such great chemistry together. Things have changed since then. Fantilli has been playing on, I guess, the third line with Bemstrom and Texier. Or sorry, no, that's Jenner. Boone Jenner's been playing on the line with Bemstrom, Texier. Fantilli's been playing with Sillinger and Kent Johnson, leaving Gaudreau and Laine to be on the top line. Patrick Laine as a center now for a few games. And the third piece on that line has been Kirill Marchenko, someone who came into the league last year with a bit of hype, 23 years old, had been in the KHL for a bit. And Marchenko, like it's deceiving. Like he scored 21 goals in 59 games, which is really good. The problem is he only had 4 assists. But I think that won't last if he sticks on the top line. I think it's gonna be pretty hard to not get any assists if you're playing with Laine and Gaudreau. Laine, by the way, has had an insane training camp. Gaudreau's also been good. So yeah, if that line sticks, just add it to the list of guys like Drouin and JVR and Mangiapane. Like Kirill Marchenko is someone I would watch, and also Marchenko, like JVR, has been on the top power play. It's been Werenski, Laine, Gaudreau, Marchenko, and Boone Jenner on PP1 lately, leaving my guy Adam Fantilli on the second power play with Provorov, Severson, Johnson, and Bemstrom. So yeah, I mean, what is there to say? Marchenko right now, stock way up, probably worth a grab. And the question is just how long is it going to last? Is Laine actually going to stay center all season when he's never really done that? So there's a lot of question marks, and I think that I could see things changing. But for now, yeah, pretty stoked about Marchenko. And I want to know, Brian, what I should do with Adam Fantilli, who I drafted. He's had a good training camp. Apparently he's been good. He scored a goal in the last game. He got rocked by TJ Oshie. And there was all these tweets like, welcome to the NHL, Fantilli. And I was like, whatever. Then he but how about that? How about that? It's pretty good if he responded by scoring a goal later in the game. I like that. So I don't know. I'm still a big fan of his, but obviously I'd prefer if he was playing with Laine and not on the third line and second power play.
Yeah, Fantilli down on the all upside line with Kent Johnson and Cole Sillinger. All three, well, 2 of the other non-Fantilli pieces are guys we've hoped to see more from in the past. And it's hard to believe, for me, it's hard to imagine that could be a really solid and productive line. And I wonder if that might actually be something that works in that line's favor. They'll have to be split up because they're not able to hold it down, when the other 2 lines aren't on the ice, although that Jenner, Bemstrom, Texier line, I'm assuming, is going to get the bulk of the defensive matchups. But back to Kirill Marchenko, who I'm going to repeat that stat line that you mentioned, 21 goals and 4 assists for Marchenko in 59 games. All 4 assists were primary, so not a single secondary point for Marchenko. He and I'm like, oh, well, that's crazy. Was he on the ice for no goals? And it's like, no, he scored 21. He was on the ice for 48 goals. He just did not assist on a lot of them. So that's a really low points participation rate, especially since the Blue Jackets were scoring on over 9% of their shots while Marchenko was on the ice. Last season, this is at all strengths. But Marchenko looks for real. I'm looking at his expected goals numbers. They look solid. He took a couple shots per game and now top line, top power play. Yeah, I'm excited that we had a 20 goal scorer, a rookie 20 goal scorer, did it really quietly in 59 games, got no assists to go with it. Yeah, Elon, I'm pretty interested in Kirill Marchenko.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, add them to the list. We got a lot of really interesting players there for us all to look at potential. Well, I feel like in Cupful, it's it depends how long your slow draft went for whether or not Marchenko and some of the other guys were taken. But yeah, Marchenko definitely looking interesting. Okay, let's go next to the Florida Panthers, where we've got an injury, unfortunately. Sam Bennett is hurt. Apparently, he's going to miss a couple weeks, questionable to play the first game of the season. So we'll have to see. I drafted him in Cupful, kind of frustrated, but also it's kind of fun that now I get to, fill the spot in the meantime with some of these guys we've been talking about, hopefully. So yeah, the lines in the latest practice have been, so Verhaeghe, Barkov, and Evan Rodriguez. Rodriguez has been there the whole time on that top line pretty much. And then Tkachuk was being centered by Bennett. So it's instead Eetu Luosterainen, who had a good run last year when he got a similar opportunity. And then Nick Cousins, actually. So that's you would think on the surface, not a great set of line mates for Matthew Tkachuk. Not that it stopped him from, having a good preseason. I think Matthew Tkachuk is just good enough. It doesn't matter. And, just makes guys like Luosterainen and Cousins interesting, potentially, depending how deep your league is. The top power play has been Barkov, Tkachuk, Rodriguez, Reinhart, and OEL. So that's the other big name and the big story, I think, from preseason is I think everyone thought Gustav Forsling was going to be a lock to run that top power play going into the season until Montour and Ekblad came back. But no, it's been Oliver Ekman-Larsson. And OEL had that big game against Tampa, 2 assists and 7 shots. So if he can keep that up, could be really huge for him. And then, yeah, so I guess the main names I want to throw at you, though, are probably OEL. If he's available, you probably want to grab him, especially for the short term. And then Evan Rodriguez, another Marchenko, another JVR, top line, top power play. Evan Rodriguez, how could you not want him?
Yeah, and you say like another JVR, but I would say the difference with Evan Rodriguez is that we have seen him have recent success playing top line, top power play when he gets that deployment, which he didn't often, but both in Pittsburgh. Like he started his career in Buffalo, right? He played his first 4 seasons there, traded to Pittsburgh, ended up having 3 seasons there where late, like I think it was his 3rd season in Pittsburgh that Rodriguez ended up getting really great deployment for a short amount of time. And then in Colorado, Rodriguez was also used to sort of to bolster an injured top. That's it. Like he seems to just be plugged in, Rodriguez, when there's a hole, which there is right now with Sam Bennett. So we'll see what happens in a couple weeks. But for the opening couple of weeks, like for as long as Sam Bennett's out, I am very interested in Evan Rodriguez, who I think is like too useful as a checking line center or like utility guy to ever get this deployment permanently. But while he has it, yeah, we've seen him produce, and I'm like I would rank Rodriguez just a little bit above James Van Riemsdyk because I think they'll both lose their deployment eventually, and I feel a little more confident that Rodriguez can make something of his.
Yeah, I'm with you. I have JVR pretty low as well. But yeah, Rodriguez is someone who I would prefer and see how long that lasts. So let's go to Chicago, Brian. Obviously, so Connor Bedard has been like as advertised, like highlight reel goals, plays. He's doing really well, taking a lot of shots. Like I'm really curious to see if we were like wrong to not just take him. Brian, I guess you took Forsberg over Bedard. So that'll be a fun one to watch throughout the season. I could definitely see that going either way. But Bedard's looked really good. We're already at a point where we're like, you probably want to get those Bedard line mates for sure. Probably more so than the Forsberg line mates, I think.
Yes.
But of course, that doesn't mean that Forsberg and also Forsberg has the winger eligibility. I have Forsberg too. I'm really like Forsberg is the best player on his team. He could be really great. So that'll be fun. But yeah, Bedard has been good. His line mates have been Taylor Hall, not surprising. Apparently the first game together, whatever, but since then it's looked like they've been good together. Like Taylor Hall had a really great game with a ton of assists. So I'm really excited to see how that will go. I think you and I, or me and a bunch of the other co-hosts on Keeping Karlsson have Hall. I don't think you ended up with Hall, right?
No, I tried in all my drafts and failed in all my drafts. I couldn't believe it.
Well, yeah, I'm very surprised by that because I would have thought you would reach for him because you love Taylor Hall so much even before. But yeah, so he's good. But yeah, the third piece. Okay, another to add to the list. This whole we should, Brian. But you haven't named the episode yet. The episode should probably be called Third Wheel because we're just telling you all the good third wheels going into the season. And it's Ryan Donato, a guy who like was on Boston like a million years ago, and everyone thought he was going to be good. And then he's like since then like bounced around the league, and he's like top line, top power play lately, playing with Bedard and Hall. So this could be a really great situation. We'll have to see how that shakes out. So I got a tweet here from Scott Powers, who's one of their like main beat writers, with his prediction of what the lines will be for opening night. So it was Bedard, Hall, and Donato, then Athanasiou with Reichel and Kurashev, and then Cole Gutman, a guy I have in my dynasty league, and Radish and Tyler Johnson as the third line. So yeah, definitely not as exciting for Radish as some people expected, thinking he'd be on the top line or at least the top 2 lines. Athanasiou, Reichel, because again, Chicago's one of those teams that play with the only team that plays Tuesday and Wednesday for next week. So like for a schedule play, a lot of people have been thinking it's valuable to just grab those Chicago guys. So yeah, I'm not sure what the exact power ranking is here, but definitely Donato, I mean, pretty clearly should be at the top there after Bedard and Hall. Also on defense, there's an interesting name, Kevin Korchinski, another super early pick, just like Benson. Looks like he has a good chance to make the team. I don't know if it's official yet, but I think Lewis is saying here in the chat that there's a good chance that Korchinski will make the team for opening night. So that's probably your second power play guy on the team. He's had 3 assists in 5 games. So that'll be a fun name also, even if just for that 2-game stream to start, though I guess you could get forwards, but I think Korchinski might be the, 4th most interesting after the guys on the top line.
I don't know. Like I'd say still that like Lucas Reichel is still potentially worth a look. And well, you have Andreas Athanasiou. Can I ask, like, do you have him for much longer?
I mean, I'll hold him for these 2 games because I
Yeah.
already have 3 injured spots to fill. So I'm already going to make 3 ads, and then I think I'll just leave the rest of the guys alone. I'll get those 2 games from Athanasiou. But yeah, unless he does something, the whole plan of I drafted him with my second last pick. So the plan all along was for these 2 games. But obviously, I wish I took Donato, but I didn't realize
Yeah.
at the time.
I took Donato after Gurianov, of course. But Taylor Radish is also like I think there's a good mix of folks, and I don't know how many like Gorchinski is going to be like a brand new NHLer, right? Like he was just
So it's
drafted.
Bedard.
Yeah, but like Bedard is different. Like I don't know exactly how to say it. But Gorchinski, yeah, he's 19 years old. I don't know.
Older than Bedard.
It takes a lot for a 19-year-old defenseman to. You can keep coming at me with those, and I'm just going to keep talking. It takes a lot to be an impactful defenseman at this age. Like look at Owen Power last year, and I feel like maybe that's what we're looking at for Kevin Korchinski this year, which is not a whole lot of relevance. Maybe like the potential's there, and I'm sure that Chicago would love to see it. He was basically the return for Alex DeBrincat. So we'll see. But yeah, Elon, I think I'd still go at least Taylor Radish, probably also Lucas Reichel, and then maybe Kevin Korchinski or Andreas Athanasiou as the next guy after that.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. It's always interesting when you see those like super high pedigree guys get a shot. But yeah, we'll see what he could do with it. Okay, let's go next to the Carolina Hurricanes. Okay, so Andrei Svechnikov is injured, but he should be back soon. So I'm not sure what exactly to read into the lines. I think I have a pretty good hunch of what they're going to do. The top line has been Aho with Jarvis and Michael Bunting. Michael Bunting's been there all season, so add him to the third wheel list. But Bunting has been good for a little while now. He was a third wheel in Toronto and was good there. So I think Bunting is someone that people should probably have on their radar. He had 2 goals and 1 assist and 9 shots in his 3 preseason games. He's been also on the top power play, Bunting. It's been D'Angelo Burns. I think we talked about that before. We had another team with 2 defensemen, D'Angelo Burns, Jarvis Aho, and Bunting. I'd expect that Svechnikov, when he comes back, he bumps Bunting from that top power play. The second line has been Teravainen, Kotkaniemi, and Necas. I'm going to expect that Svechnikov takes the spot there with Kotkaniemi and Necas. Teravainen goes down to the third line, kind of similar to last year. So nothing too surprising, I guess, except to point out that Bunting seems to be sticking on the top line and D'Angelo seems to be sticking on the top power play. So both guys that might be available that have really good deployment right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see when Svechnikov comes back who gets bumped from that situation, assuming that someone is going to get bumped between D'Angelo, Jarvis, and Bunting. But I guess we don't know for sure. But I think, was it Mike Clifford who on the draft show pointed out that like Bunting is a bit of a sleeper, and like he is kind of hidden in that top 9 in Arizona. And after last year in Toronto.
Oh, in Arizona.
Yeah. Sorry. Am I good? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I say Carolina?
No, you said Arizona, but I just forgot that he was on Arizona.
Who, Bunting?
Yeah,
but I still misspoke. I got you. Thanks for catching me. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome.
Bunting is kind of hidden in that top 9 in Carolina, and he's under the radar because last year things did not go so swimmingly for Bunting. Just there were some percentages that worked against him, but he didn't get up to the 65-point pace that Bunting had 2 years prior in 21-22 in his first year with Toronto. And I think he has the potential to fall somewhere in between and like maybe take 2.5 shots a night, depending on exactly the role he's asked to play. But seeing this top line, top power play deployment is pretty exciting early on. And I would be interested. He's someone who I would feel like up there with Ryan Johansson. Elon is someone who's a potential full season hold. Being in the position he's in, if he can, all he needs to do is produce at a 55-point pace in most leagues, and that's rosterable. And I think he's got a good chance at doing that with this current, with the way he's currently being used.
Yeah, I'm with you. He's definitely very interesting. Brian, so we still got a lot to go, including that big injury in Tampa Bay that we already talked about last week. We'll get into it a little bit more now that we have some data, but we'll get to that in just a second. Listen to Keep It Karlsson. We are back. Oh, what was it again? Oakley Dokley. What was the thing that I said at the
Heidi ho, neighbor.
Heidi ho, everybody. We are back to talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning. And for those of you that don't know what injury I was talking about, where have you been? Vasilevsky's going to be out for a couple months. So bummer for them, but not as much of a bummer now as it seemed at the time, because Jonas Johansson has had himself a nice 3 preseason games, 797 save percentage. Obviously, Brian's already smirking. Look, I'm just reporting the facts
797 save percentage, which I
feel flip it 979.
Well, flipped at 797.
True. Okay, shift it, and you get the 979 that is looking sparkling, right? Probably better than Vast would have done. You know what? And Matt Tompkins has been solid enough as well as the backup. A bunch of goalies have been waived today. You know, it's the last day of training camp, so I like Martin Jones, the Leafs waived him. Like, I don't know, like maybe Tampa gets someone else to back up, you know, instead of Matt Tompkins, who it's like, who's this guy? But Jonas Johansson is holding his own. I don't know if it's like the Tampa system. I mean, it probably is a bit the Tampa system. Maybe Jonas Johansson has improved. So I think that maybe they'll be okay. Like, doesn't seem like it's as desperate a situation. Obviously, it's just preseason, but I'd imagine Tampa Bay Lightning fans are a little less nervous now than they were at first when they were just, you know, reading the tweets about Jonas Johansson from the past. As far as the lines have been going, we got another big surprise, Brian, actually on the power play. So the lines in the last practice or game, like as we would have expected, like Point, Kucherov and Hagel, Stamkos then with Cirelli and Connor Sherry, whatever. Nick Paul is in the bottom 6, but on the top power play in the last game, Nick Paul, and not only the last couple games, Nick Paul has been on the top power play and not Brandon Hagel, which happened for a bit last year. I think we already forget how Nick Paul had a good stretch, and seems like there's something in the water. I don't know what it is, but like I think that this Nick Paul thing on the top power play, that's going to go into the season. And Paul has been good. He has a power play goal and a power play assist in his last 3 games. So I wonder if like Nick Paul is actually the new Alex Killorn. Who did you say before was the new Alex Killorn? I forget. But anyways, I think Nick Paul easily can step into that role of being like a third liner, but getting top power play time, and makes Hagel not as sure a thing as we thought. Like I remember thinking like Hagel's for sure going to be on the like top power play, and I couldn't even think of who's going to bump him. Forgot about Nick Paul, former Ottawa Senator. Really good spot right now.
Nick Paul does it all. I would actually make the comp that maybe Nick Paul is going to be more like a Stefan Nason, who's going to be on the top power play, but do very little at 5-on-5. There's not going to be a whole lot of production to go with whatever he's able to do on the top power play. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, while Nick Paul's on the top power play in deep enough leagues, you got to give him a look. And I will just like speaking about the goalie situation, Martin Jones is not a great solution. I mean, compared to Jonas Johansson, he of the Sterling, I'm confused now, 979 save percentage in preseason. I want to point out that Tampa does not protect their goalies, or at least recently has not been protecting their goalies terribly well. Like Andrei Vasilevsky received out of those 36 goalies who saw at least 1,000 unblocked shot attempts against, Vasilevsky saw the 13th hardest workload last year. So like James Reimer basically saw a workload of the same difficulty, and Kaapo Kähkönen and Jordan Binnington and Shesterkin. But so some of those guys, you know, that like for Shesterkin and Vasilevsky, it's almost like Tampa might have decided to be like, yeah, Vasilevsky is back there, so we can take some liberties. For the other teams, they just didn't have the personnel. So we'll see if Tampa tries to tighten things up to support Jonas Johansson. I can't imagine that that's not part of the plan. They don't quite have the personnel to just outgun any team they play, which is going to be interesting to see how it impacts the rest of the team, especially like Stamkos playing with Cirelli and Sherry on a second line. That seems like, you know, Cirelli's there, the defensive minded one, with Stamkos and Sherry, I guess, trying to be offensive. But again, they're going to have to play pretty tight. Like I could see Tampa being in a lot of 1-goal games, or trying to be in a lot of 1-goal games, setting up their goalie to reasonably expect to be in a lot of 1-goal games. So we'll see if anything. Elon, you said a lot of goalies went on the wire. Was there anyone do you want to name some? Anyone outside of Martin Jones?
You know what? I saw Shams is in the chat here. Let's go to the next team. Shams will let us know because he was talking about it recently on the Discord. By the way, if you want to become a patron of Keeping Karlsson, one of the perks is you join our Discord and you get up to the minute news from Shams. So that's pretty good. You can get like close up to the minute news from Shams by going to gamedaytweets.com. But if you want even more up to the minute, then you got to join the Discord. So, okay, let's go next to the Arizona Coyotes. Shams has just written 1 sec. Oh, Malcolm Subban, Martin Jones, Delia, Hellberg. Oh, Hellberg.
Oh, your favorite.
Yeah, my favorite guy.
Why aren't you considering him as Tampa's savior?
I actually dropped him in my dynasty, so I don't care about him anymore.
So you're off, but you're
I'm
done
off him.
pretending. You're the cognitive dissonance is gone.
Though Brian, I actually though put my money where my mouth is in my dynasty just today. So you can't just call me whatever. But I had Phoenix Copley, who I added last year out of free agency and was great. I won the championship. He was a huge part of it. I just traded him for a second rounder because
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that he's not going to be a
We don't
starter
need to
this
like
year.
I feel like yeah, I know. Does everyone
Okay.
else know, or is it just the people
I don't know.
on our
I'm just saying, like,
Discord?
I don't know if Cam Talbot is the answer. David Riddick actually has been. Let's go to LA next. They weren't next on my list, but whatever. Okay.
Okay.
David Riddick is also a goalie in LA this year, for people who don't know. And he's
What?
actually been the only goalie that's been good in the preseason. Riddick and Talbot have both not been great. Talbot had one good game, but then yesterday he got blown up by Vegas. And Vegas is the defending Stanley Cup champ, so I don't know. But anyway, all that to say, I just feel like, yeah, maybe it's like a 1 1/3 chance. I'm not like super high on Copley. Anyone who's like drafting Copley in their leagues thinking like you get like a super late, like starting goalie on a good team, anything could happen. But for what it's worth, I just traded him for a second, and I'm pretty happy with that. Then I actually added an old friend of mine, Kevin Lankinen, out of free agency.
I
I
knew
figured I'd
that was
rather have
coming.
I figured I'd rather have a second and Lankinen than Copley. So that's what I went with. I'd rather have Copley than Lankinen, like overall. Like I think obviously there's more upside with Copley, but I'll take the pick. And Lankinen, for what it's worth, little dynasty talk here. He's the backup this year on Nashville, but maybe if he makes continues to do as well as he did last year, maybe a team like some other team like takes a shot on him as a more of a 50-50 thing for the following year. We'll see.
He's in David Riddick's former spot.
There you go. Is he? Oh yeah. I guess Nashville's really churned some goalies over there. Riddick was on Nashville. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, that didn't work out. No, Lankinen was much better than Riddick. Anyway, did I have anything else to say about LA while we're on there? Let me just. I'm trying to scroll here. I can't find the LA. Okay, I'm gonna.
Well, you have Dubois. I think that can I mention something because I know like
Please.
Dubois and Fiala are like on the quote unquote third line, but they're basically on the second scoring line, right? You've got Byfield, Kopitar, Kempe. That's holding as the top line. And then you have Mordino, Arvidsson as like the top checking line.
Well, I mean, but Arvidsson has had an incredible preseason, so I wouldn't just like totally like disregard Arvidsson's potential to get points.
So I'm not. This is not about disregarding anyone on the checking line. This is not getting too down on anyone like on Dubois' line.
Oh, I agree.
Just because they seem like they're third in the rotation whenever line rushes are posted. Like I wouldn't read too much into it. In fact, I think it's great for Fiala to have Dubois. Like he doesn't need to be anywhere else in the lineup. Like he's got someone good to play with, and I don't know that I'd want him anywhere else in the lineup, quite frankly. So I think this could be a fun season to see just how good Kevin Fiala can be in LA. And hopefully like he doesn't have that like super frustrating pattern that we've seen in the past. Last year, Fiala like played the most with Kopitar as a center, but his second most regular center was Blake Lizotte. So like this is a big improvement, and you don't have to sweat those moments when Fiala is with Lizotte. Be like, when's he gonna go back to Kopitar?
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. No, this is like LA's good. Like they've scored a lot of goals this preseason. Like for what it's worth, like I think they're looking like they're going to be a really offensive team next year with like 3 strong lines, like you said, Brian. Makes me kind of stoked for Drew Doughty, who I kind of had to grab in the Cupful draft just because I got to a point where like all the defensemen that I was hoping to get were taken, and Doughty had 5 assists in 4 games in preseason. So like LA looks like they're going to score a lot of goals. So the top power play quarterback, even if it's someone who hasn't been producing lately, like Doughty could be really good. And yeah, right now to add to the third wheel conversation, so Kaliev is suspended, but when Kaliev comes back, it looks like he's going to be the guy with Fiala and Dubois. So that'll be good. Right now it's Grundstrom. If you want a guy for like a couple games, I wouldn't waste time on that. But Kaliev, especially if you're on like a platform that lets you stash suspended players, in like a IR spot or whatever spot, like I would stash Kaliev and get that exposure to Fiala and Dubois. I agree. Yeah. By the way, Shams is saying oddly David Riddick has not been waived yet, so the Kings still have 3 goalies. I don't think it's that odd weird, considering he's been the only one that's been good. I could see could so maybe Copley could be waived. He's at the end of the day, it's Phoenix Copley. Okay, he's not like he's a journeyman.
Yeah,
like a minor leaguer.
Absolutely. Yeah, they LA could easily continue with 3 goalies because they're 3 lotto tickets and see which one plays well. I drafted Copley 248th out of 252, just as like the last minute lotto ticket for for an opening night start. I only had 1 goalie, and I'm like, this is the guy most likely to start opening night for his team. And now is instead of a 1 in 2 chance, it's a 1 in 3 chance, which I don't feel too great about. So I'm hoping for news. Teams should start announcing their opening night starting goalies before long, before a couple moves start counting.
I'm excited to do a retweet on at Game Day Goalies. We've been rocking on at Game Day Lines and at Game Day News NHL and at Game Day Stats NHL, but Game Day Goalies still is talking about how Aiden Hill is going to be against Bobrovsky in the Stanley Cup Finals, and like I'm excited to see something new there. Because we haven't been retweeting starting goalies for preseason. Because come on, like that's too crazy. So okay, Brian, next up here, where are we going? We just talked about, I'm scrolling around here because as a professional podcaster, I'm able to change the plan based on where the convo's going, though I guess a real professional would do it so seamlessly that doesn't have to like talk about it after. Okay, we were on Tampa, now we're going to Arizona. Okay, Brian, and I think the big news here is Logan Cooley. Man, he's for real. 4 goals and 2 assists in 5 preseason games. Arizona just trounced Anaheim, so maybe everyone's numbers are a little bit juiced after that 7-1 win yesterday. But that line, Cooley, Kerfoot, and Zucker, like Zucker has 4 assists, which I guess makes sense with Cooley's 4 goals. Like that's a pretty good second line. Like we know the top line is solid with Hayton, Schmaltz, and Keller, but the fact that now with Cooley in the picture, they also have a really strong second line. Arizona's a team to watch. And by the way, Sean Durzi, who we were talking about for a while, as someone who might be a little bit of a sleeper, like he has a goal and 3 assists in 5 games. So I think he might be what we were expecting. And all that to say, look at Cool. If Cooley's out there, definitely go get him. If Durzi's out there, I think definitely go get him. And I think like if Vejmelka's out there, like I'm more into Arizona now than I was last year. Like I think they're looking pretty good.
Yeah, well, with Vejmelka, I think you've got to consider that he might share time with Connor Ingram, who had some nice starts last year, and Vejmelka had some stumbles last year. But Vejmelka has been under like such a heavy workload, and one guy just not to get lost in this shuffle that we're just taking for granted is on the top line, is Barrett Hayton. There was concern, right, that he'd be replaced by Logan Cooley and he'd be line 2, maybe even power play 2. Elon, I haven't been able to find Arizona power play situations from their most recent preseason games. I'm not sure if you can come up with that while I talk, or if we're just in the dark about it. But I think, like Barrett Hayton's stock after being like high at the end of last year and then dipping with Logan Cooley looking like someone who's going to make the team, I think has come right back up as somebody who was probably worth a grab late on the sort of mid to back end of your drafts. And if you did make it to free agency, you've got a top line centering like Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz, who are like, they're good. Those are good players to be centering. So I wouldn't want to leave him in free agency for too long.
Oh yeah, no, Hayton I drafted. I'm excited about Barrett Hayton. I think the fact that Cooley's doing so well with Zucker and Kerfoot just makes me think like, well, yeah, it's good. Like they don't need to like be like, oh, Kerfoot or Cooley's better than Hayton, so we better move Cooley to the top line. Like no, if it's working, it's working, right? So we'll see what happens. But so far, so good for both of those centermen. Okay, let's go to the Anaheim Ducks. Okay, they finally signed their free agents. Zegers is signed. Drysdale is signed. Leo Karlsson was another one of these people just drafted that was looking like he was going to make the team. Looks like he's injured or something, so I'm not sure what's going to happen with him. Also, Alex Killorn is injured. He has a fractured finger. So if you're in a super deep league and you have the open spot, like stash him in IR, why not? Okay. The Lions today had Brett Leeson, who is definitely a name I didn't expect to ever say on the show as a top liner.
New lease on life for him.
With the Zegers and Terry. It was Henrique before. So, like I said yesterday, Arizona beat Anaheim 7-1. So I guess they had to try something new today. But I don't know. Whatever. You only want Zegers and Terry and probably McTavish, who's been centering the second line with Vetrano and Strome. And I think the next most interesting guy on the team would be Drysdale. Right? He had 4 shots versus Arizona for what it's worth, a 7-1 loss. I can't find anywhere like time on ice information for the defenseman, like who was on the power play. I don't even know. All my sources don't have it.
Such a black hole of information. I don't know what's going on there. Like some teams are worse than others. Like Arizona's tough, Nashville's tough, Anaheim. Yeah, it feels like Leeson's just a stand-in.
Yeah, probably.
Like 24 years old, paced for 14 points in both his NHL seasons to date, one in Washington and one in Anaheim, like both on the fourth line, but I don't see anything else to really speak of. But I think maybe the takeaway here is that if you did draft Adam Henrique, hoping that he would play with Zegras. Or like, if you're wondering how the lines are going to shake out, the one consistent thing that I've noticed in preseason in Anaheim from the information we have been given is that Zegras and Terry are playing together on the top line. And there's going to be a third wheel there. It was Leo Karlsson for a while, but he's like in some kind of injury purgatory right now, or like making the team purgatory even. Like, it hasn't been clear at all exactly what's happening to him. But curiously, Ryan Strome staying on the second line, Mason McTavish staying off the top line so far anyway. But I think you should probably keep an eye on whoever gets to be that Anaheim third wheel because of all those off nights too. If it's somebody who can get a couple shots a game and point, 2 out of every 3 nights, then that could be someone really valuable playing with Zegras and Terry. And bonus, of course, if they end up on the top power play too.
Yeah, I think you got Zegras, Terry, and McTavish probably as the locks on the top power play. And then, yeah, there'll be another forward and another defenseman. And the defenseman's also the big question, right? Fowler took it for a lot last year. But if Drysdale was hurt. Also, it looks like Pavel Mintyukov made the team, who was like, I think 9th or 10th overall.
I saw he got sent down.
No, you're thinking of Zellweger. I think you're thinking of Zellweger.
Oh, yeah.
Not the same guy. Mintyukov's the one that I have in my dynasty league, and Zellweger isn't. That's one easy mnemonic to try to remember which is which. So I wonder what's going to happen on that top power play, but Jamie Drysdale's probably pretty interesting, right? Like I think that he just signed. I was searching because I was like trying my best to try to figure out who was on that top power play and what's been going on. And I searched for Drysdale, and there was a lot of people tweeting that they're like very impressed with how he looks. Like apparently he's much better looking now than he was before. At least the comments to the tweet. And again, Twitter's algorithms kind of changed. Like a lot of people were just like, "Whoa, was Drysdale always that hot?" And like that was kind of like the main tweets I saw when I was searching for Drysdale. So he looked really good. He looks really good for what it's worth. So maybe he's been working out.
I hope it looks good on the I'm trying to is this a face thing or body? Anyway,
I think it was a face. Well, I think it was like a chiseled, like muscular face.
Well, now I want to see like before and after pictures of Jamie Drysdale. Like what how much could have changed in a year?
Well, he was hurt, I guess. I don't know. Maybe he had time to go to the gym more. Hurt. Maybe he filled out. I don't know.
Less time if he's hurt. Anyway.
If you're hurt, but maybe you could like work out other parts of your body.
It's really
while
interesting
other parts are hurt.
To hear you bring up a 21-year-old Jamie Drysdale because like I brought him up before and you were like, no, it's going to be Mintyukov or Zellweger or Fowler. Like he's 4th in line. He's over. He's busted.
Yeah. Well, now I saw those tweets.
Yeah. Okay.
He's looking swole. He's looking good.
Okay.
Okay. We have fun. Okay, next up, let's go to the Islanders. That's right. I'm not bringing up the Islanders last. I know everyone was thinking it'll probably be Islanders last because we're going by boring teams, but no, there's actually something a little interesting going on here, which is that Anders Lee is like lost his whole thing. Like it was like forever, like Barzal's with Lee and Lee's at least on the top. Like he still did nothing, but at least he was doing nothing on the top power play and making us at least a little interested in him. But no, Kyle Palmieri has come back, and it's been Palmieri on the top power play with Barzal and Horvat and Nelson. And Lee has been playing on the third line with Peugeot and Wallstrom. Who knows how long it'll last, of course. And also like there's another random third wheel. Simon Holmstrom has been playing with Barzal and Horvat on the top line. That probably won't last. Maybe Palmieri will go there. I don't know. Maybe Lee will go there. All I know is like Anders Lee is like his stock is as low as it's ever been. Like forget about him.
Yeah, even top line, top power play, Lee was like not a particularly easy player to roster. So you know what? This to me at least just makes it more cut and dry and easier to say like, yeah, I'm glad like I did not take another chance on you. Like Anders Lee, I once really believed in him and thought he could be a consistent 40-goal scorer. Was it a Lee thing or a Long Island thing? I don't know. It could have been a bit of both, but yeah, now that he's off the top line, he's also 33 years old, so not getting any younger. I mean, Palmieri's older. It's weird. Like Elon, I guess. Like, are you like we're always interested in top line, top power play. So Palmieri's line 2, top power play, and like
yeah, I'm kind of interested in Palmieri.
He had one run last year where he seemed like really rosterable,
and we like Bo Horvat. Barzal's looked really good in training camp for what it's worth. 4 points in 4 games. Like I think that Palmieri playing with Nelson at even strength and then on the top power play, if that holds, it's at least a stream. Like it's a guy that I think could get points. For however long it lasts.
Like a good schedule stream.
Okay, so let's go to the other New York team now. The New York Rangers, who have also been doing things not exactly like the power play is basically exactly what we would have expected, right? Fox, Zibanejad, Trocheck, Panarin, Kreider, and then you're leaving all your Lafrenières, Kakos, Hedel, to the second power play. Keandre Miller, Blake Wheeler's there on the second power play. But the lines, I think, are interesting because Trocheck is not centering Panarin. Trocheck has been on the third line, centering Lafreniere and Wheeler. And it's been Philip Hedl, who was hurt for a bit, but he's back. And he's been centering Panarin. I think that's what a lot of us have been waiting for Hedl to finally get that chance to center the Panarin line. And I'm really curious what he was going to do with it. Also, a guy named Will Kyle has made the team. Cuylle. I think he was part of a trade for Lias Anderson. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know who this guy is, but he's ahead of Blake Wheeler on the depth chart right now. And I'm not going to recommend him, but good for him for making the team. I think I saw some tweets being like good for him. It was like, oh, he wasn't a lock to make the team going into camp, and he really earned it. But I just want to mainly spend this Rangers time on Philip Hedl and say that that's a really great spot. And we've seen flashes when he gets opportunity. And I think this is like a great opportunity. I'm really curious to see how it's going to go.
Yeah, sorry. I'm busy looking at like Will Coyle's. He was drafted 60th overall by the Rangers in 2020.
You're going Coyle, like Charlie Coyle?
Kyle?
That's the thing. It's like Cuy. Kyle. I don't know. I could have guessed we could have looked this up.
Coyle. Okay, anyway. William, New York William. Yeah. No. Well, I what this does is it adds like potential fantasy relevance to several players in New York, right? Like it was the top 6, and then the kid line who were like kind of rosterable, but like you could stream them in, but you couldn't actually really count on them, and you wouldn't want to get overly committed to any of Hedl, Kakko, or Coyle. But yeah, now Kakko playing with Zibanejad and Kreider, Hedl playing with Panarin, and even honestly on the third line, like I think Lafreniere has a bit more fantasy relevance potentially playing with Vincent Trocheck and Blake Wheeler, like the combo of them both. So I think like what you'll want to do is keep an eye on the lines and see if this holds, and if it does. To me, I wonder if it's a top 9, Elon. Like the top 6 seems better. Like the top 2 lines seem better than the third line, but I still wonder how evenly they might roll them, which might give everyone an opportunity to have some newfound relevance.
Yeah, I guess it's possible. I didn't really think of it that way. I guess it makes sense. I don't know. I feel like someone like Wheeler is someone that I had on like my watch list, if he was going to play with either a Zibanejad or a Panarin, but now I'm like not that interested, to be honest.
I've got the glass half full look at the Rangers depth chart, but I'm very ready after a week or two to be like, that was wrong. They're not sharing the wealth anymore.
Yeah, or even if they do, I just don't know what he can. Like I just have less confidence that they'll do that much to aside from maybe being like a checking sort of whatever line. What was it that Michael Clifford said about Lafreniere? He was like saying he's like tough to play against or something. I that, by the way, Brian, I haven't like done the commentary on that auction draft in a long time. That was intense. That's like, I once listened to this podcast that was so funny, and it was these 2 guys listened to watched all the Fast and the Furious movies at like 3x. And then the whole like commentary was them like being like, yeah, everything is happening so fast. And like next thing you know, it's a race. The next thing you know, they're having a fight. And it was like, that's how I felt like doing this draft commentary. It was like, you're talking about one guy and like 5 guys get drafted. All you're talking about was crazy.
It was crazy. And we didn't have the breaks that we usually have to bring in we missed hearing some of the perspective from the tier 1 drafters and whatever, but I think Mike took the least time away from the mic. It was a crazy experience. I was very happy to have you there to share the load. I always feel like I need a nap after that episode. I felt a little less in need of a nap. Yeah, with 2 co-hosts instead of 1.
All right, so with that, let's take our final break here, and then we still got a bunch of teams to talk about, but they're at the bottom of my list of interesting things to talk about. So maybe it won't take that long. We'll find out. You're listening to Keeping Karlsson. Heidi ho, everybody! We are back to talk about the Pittsburgh.
I think Penguins. You should have come in with a
huh. Is that?
I think mine was better.
Okay, you do it. Okay, let's start again.
I did it.
Go ahead. Well, I was talking over you.
Oh, I thought you could have just like kept rolling with me saying that.
Just go for it. Just give us one more because I just want to hear it again.
Okay, but I might mess it up, so no, you don't have to use it.
Okay, I'm definitely going to use it. I'm using all of this. Amazing. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Let's go to the Penguins, okay? Big news for anyone who drafted Gensel, expecting that he was going to miss a little bit of time. He might be back in time for opening night. So this is kind of like Marchand. Was it Marchand last year? Like he was like falling in drafts a little bit because everyone thought he was going to be injured for a while. Then he came back like right away. So yeah, it looks like Gensel's going to be back on the top line with Crosby and Rust. Rust. That's interesting, actually. I was last year was Raquel right on that line. Looks like then Riley Smith, Raquel have been playing with Malkin on the second line. So yeah, that top six is obviously going to be a little bit interchangeable, but all of those players are in good spots. The most interesting thing today is that the power plays. The whole training camp has had Letang on the top power play with Karlsson. But with Gensel back, it was today. We'll see. Who knows? Karlsson, Crosby, Malkin, Raquel, Gensel on PP1, and then Letang quarterbacking the second power play with Rust and Riley Smith. And Jeff Carter's still around? Wow. Jansen Harkins is on Pittsburgh? He was also there. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, if Letang stays on the second power play, that's a bummer for anyone who drafted him expecting to be on the top power play.
Yeah, it's a tough turn of events. And I think I saw the quote, which was like Letang saying he's used to playing a certain role on the top unit, but he didn't. I think the key here is like, remember when Karlsson was first acquired, it was like, oh, but the Pens still want Letang to be happy, so they're going to try and make it work for a role. And Letang was like, yeah, I'll do whatever the team asks me, but of course it's nice to be on the top power play. And Letang, like, latest quote was basically saying like, yeah, I get it. Like, I have my strengths on the power play and on the second unit. If that's where I'm put to be able to use them, then that's where I'm put. So not the greatest. Like, Letang could still be in a good 5-on-5 situation, of course, but if he misses out on those power play points, that's a big ding to his value. And I never was able to grab him in my drafts, even though I was interested, but it's going to be tough for him. Like last season or most seasons, Letang is basically pacing for about 20 power play points. If you cut that in half, you're looking at a 60-point season, and that might be the top end of what you get from Letang. It might be lower than that if he spends most of it on the second power play.
Yeah, and of course, this is like one day of practice, so we'll obviously wait and see as the season starts. But yeah, not great for him right now. Anyways, let's go next to the Jets. Okay, Ehlers is hurt, but apparently he's expected to play when the season starts, so we'll see. The top line all throughout camp has basically been Scheifele, Connor, and Gabe Vilardi. So again, another third wheel is Vilardi for sure, because he's also been on the top power play. So lock that in. Like, I think we'll be in agreement here. The only reason I'm not putting this higher in the list is I feel like we've already talked about this a bunch. This has been known for a while now, but like obviously Vilardi's ahead of JVR, probably in like the Marchenko, probably higher than Marchenko, just because he's like more likely to hold it. I think at this point, like Marchenko could change like any day, right? Like Marchenko wasn't there. Like Vilardi's literally been there the whole training camp.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. Like, I agree that Vilardi's up there, especially because it doesn't seem like he's going anywhere. Like a lot of these other guys we've mentioned today, whose spots are kind of tenuous. Does Vilardi over Marchenko just seems Vilardi's really talented, right? But he's injury prone, and I think Marchenko might be more talented. That's a tough one. Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, that's Vilardi. I would, if he's in free agency for you, I'd go get him. It's obviously a really good spot. Then, of course, the big question, as always, is where's Ehlers going to play? I think it's pretty clear the top power play in the last game was Scheifele, Connor, Vilardi, Iafallo, and then Morrissey. But of course, Ehlers was hurt. You would think Ehlers overtakes Alex Iafallo on the top power play, though. Of course, I don't
know that you would think.
Like, and then there's still Perfetti in the picture. There's still Niederreiter, so no guarantees.
No guarantees. We'll like with Nick Ehlers, just forget it. Honestly,
just
like remember, like with Timo Meier, it was like, he got 70 points, not even on the top power play, and that top power play is going to come, and then he got it, and that was great. But Ehlers, like the story's been the same for long enough that you don't draft Ehlers for upside anymore. Like, you're not holding him hoping for that, especially because like he's injured a lot too. But you're saying, hey, I'm happy with 70 points from Nick Ehlers, and I know there's a chance at more, but I'm not going to reasonably expect that. Like, you can't get mad anymore if Ehlers is not on the top power play.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, now it's like you knew the risk going into it. Okay, let's go to Seattle now, Brian. I think in a shock to nobody, but still worth bringing up because I know it was a bit of a competition going into camp. It was like Grubauer is obviously going to be the starter, and then Joey Decord and Chris Driedger were going to battle it out for the backup. I think it became pretty clear pretty quickly that Joey Decord is much better than Chris Driedger. They were not going to waive Decord and let some other team take him. Driedger got waived. He cleared waivers, so he'll be again one of the most expensive goalies. Him and Cal Peterson will be the most expensive goalies in the AHL this coming year. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else that is with them. But yeah, Joey Decord had himself a really good camp. 3 sparkling games, a la Jonas Johansson, a la Jack Campbell. and someone
Interesting
who
company.
and and then the company of Grubauer is more like the Stuart Skinners because it didn't go that well for Grubauer actually. So I do wonder if I feel like in Schmore Goalies Board we talked about Grubauer as like, okay, we know he's going to get all the games. It's just a matter of is he good enough to like not be terrible, blah blah blah. I don't know how sure that is. I feel like obviously I don't think like Decord is like Grubauer's playing game one for sure, and I think he's going to get a bit of a leash. But Joey Decord like had himself a really great playoffs in the AHL last year, has had a great training camp, and Philip Grubauer's struggled a lot. So I don't think he's as sure a thing for volume as we thought. So I'll just throw it out there, but obviously goalies, who knows?
Yeah, so maybe not as sure. I don't know, Elon. Like Decord has had some big league shots, and he like never for a very long time, but
he's
never.
He's a little boy.
He's 27 years old. Yeah.
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 He's just learning.
He's never played more than 8 games in a season. He's never started more than 6, and his career save percentage in 19 appearances is .884. So like it's not great. He's always looked good. Like Decord has been someone who's always looked good, and like you feel like something big is coming, and then it doesn't really all come together. From all accounts, by the way, he's a really good guy, and you want to cheer for him. That's yeah. So like
that is what his last name means, right?
Okay, yeah, Decord.
He's good. Yeah, he's good. He's okay. He's
yeah.
Okay guy.
So look, I'm hoping he does well.
All right.
Grubauer, I think, is still going to get the lion's share of starts. And just keep in mind, Jeremy was making this point. So sorry if I'm stealing a short shifts tidbit from him, but Seattle doesn't give up a lot of shots either, right? So it's very likely, like it's like a Carolina situation almost, where if you start your goalie, you might do well for wins, you might do well for goals against average, but your save percentage or like save points, if you use that instead, are gonna struggle when they stop 19 of 22 shots most nights.
Yeah, definitely. So even if he does play a lot, it still might not be that valuable. But I would be willing. Okay, I should probably get odds on this, but I'll just give it to you straight up if you want, Brian. I'd be willing to bet you. Yeah, I think that Decord is going to play more than Copley this year. I think you're going to get more games out of Decord than Copley. Okay. That's my prediction. What do you think?
Well, I thought you were going to say Grubauer, and I was like, I will easily take that more than Copley. Huh. Yeah, like I'll take it for entertainment purposes. I think that's
all right.
That's winner, an interesting thought.
Loser has to buy the winner. Well, the thing is, now when we go,
I just don't want to turn you down, Elon. Like
so you disagree. Like, so you agree with me that Decord is going to play more than Copley?
I don't have a strong take on it, honestly. Okay. I think, yeah. Who's most likely to be worth like holding on my roster all year? I'd say Copley. But it's still unlikely. That doesn't mean it's terribly likely. And I think he'll probably
have a hunch.
He'll probably play more than Decord.
I have a hunch that Grubauer is a lot more at risk than maybe your.
I don't know. If Decord plays like 25 or 30 games, okay, and you're saying Grubauer, okay, so let's say Decord plays 30. Yeah, I think Copley will play more than 30.
Yeah. Oh, well, exactly. Well, my whole hot take, quote unquote, is I think Decord is going to get more, but we'll have to wait and see. Grubauer, obviously it's up to him, right? It's not up to Decord. This is more of a Grubauer take than a Decord take. Like Grubauer's got to get his stuff together like he did in the playoffs last year and not lose. Like he lost the job to Martin Jones for a long stretch last year. So I think that Decord is better than Jones.
Well, I think most goalies are, so we'll find out. Andy in the chat is saying, "How about neither?" And honestly, like that's what I'd prefer. Like I think this is like a really.
I mean, no, my main point
funny
here,
fringe bet. Yeah,
my main point here is to say that I'm low on Grubauer. Okay, so
understood. I hear you loud and clear.
Okay. So as far as the lines on Seattle, it's pretty much chalk, right? McCann, Beniers, Everly, Schwartz, Wimberg, Burkowski.
What's that mean, chalk?
Chalk, like CHALK, chalk, like it's like a chalk pick, like it's exactly what you would have expected to happen.
All right.
Yeah, I think it's like no surprises here. The 2 even power plays just like last year. So I'm also kind of down on Vince Dunn for where he's been being taken in drafts, considering it's like he's getting as much power play time as Justin Schultz, which is definitely not me saying you should go get Justin Schultz, but just saying like you're not getting a pure like top power play quarterback. I guess the one guy that jumps out at me, I'll just throw it out there, same as last year, Tolvanen, right? He's had a great preseason, 3 power play points. Like he's a power play specialist. and he's like fine at even strength, but he scores goals on the power play, right? Not even a power play
Used to
specialist.
mock me for saying that, and now you're adopting the term yourself.
Well, no, you used to say he's a power play savior, I think, on Nashville.
He was.
But yeah, but he's not even like a Sam Gagner power play specialist. Like Tolvanen is a goal scorer on the power play. So if you're in a couple, like you're looking at goals from this guy, I think. So don't overlook him. He's probably a free agent in a lot of leagues.
Yeah, especially with, I think, right, Seattle's one of those games that plays twice early before the busy Saturday. So that's not a bad early stream. Like as a long-term hold, I'm not so sure, just because Seattle is so wishy-washy with where the offense comes from. But I like him to start.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you'll probably have a lot of options, right? You could probably grab Schwartz, you can grab Wenberg, you can grab maybe Gourde, but Tolvanen, I like him for what it's worth. And the team that waived Tolvanen is the Nashville Predators. Let's go to them next. They now waived Gurianov. They're not going to suffer the same embarrassing fate as they did with Tolvanen, because Gurianov, like we discussed at the top, cleared waivers. So there's not, but I think we all knew at this point that Gurianov is not going to be a star in the league. But also Nashville decided to try to pull a Seattle because LA waived a guy named Sam Fagemo, and Nashville claimed him. And now Fagemo, they've been Nashville's been rolling all kinds of crazy lines. We know it's going to be Ryan O'Reilly and Forsberg on the top line, but that third wheel, good luck predicting that person. But Fagemo got a shot after he went in, he scored a goal. Parsonen has been there, whatever. So there's going to be someone there. That person's probably interesting. I will say that someone who doesn't need to be there, but is still interesting, is Novak. Tommy Novak. From his line with a bunch of other people that don't have a lot of experience, 4 points in 5 games in the preseason. We saw how great Novak was at the end of last season. I think this guy's for real. Obviously Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly more, but this Tommy Novak out of nowhere becoming a guy that should be rostered. And I'll bet you he's rostered in all the couple divisions. If not, I would definitely grab him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Well, Elon, you've been saying that for a while. So I think as a top line, top power play, second line mainstay, I think he's going to be relied upon for offense. And I think I'd rather have, who he's playing with. I'm trying to see Cody Glass, I guess, was centering the second line last game. So I'd rather have Novak's line mates who were Evangelista and Tomasino. By the way, I'm just noticing this trend in Nashville. Evangelista, Tomasino, Fagemo, Fabro, Del Gaizo. There's a lot of Italians in the picture, or who I assume to be Italians. Apologies if I've misidentified anyone. Anyway,
a lot of good food in that locker room, potentially.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. Okay. Tommy Novak. Yes, that's great. And I guess for me, and then the question is, okay, so if you have Forsberg and O'Reilly and Novak as your top 3 in Nashville, who's your 4?
Well, I think it's the guy for fantasy. It's the guy playing with Forsberg and O'Reilly.
But we don't know who it is. You're making an ad tonight.
I'm doing it tonight.
Yeah.
My gut says Parsonen.
Yeah, my gut says it's Parsonen too. Because he's not going to play center anywhere else. So I think he's going to land there. He's not a big shooter though. And Evangelista playing with Novak could have some good exposure. I don't know. It's a tough one. And I feel like Evangelista has some shooting upside too.
Yeah, Evangelista I think is their top prospect of that group for one day. But also, by the way, this Sam Fagemo, apparently he's a good goal scorer. Apparently he's known for being a goal scorer. So we'll see. He might be a Tolvanen. Nashville, like I said, Nashville lost to Tolvanen. Maybe now they think they've got their Tolvanen back.
We are a week away from Brian, who is Samuel Fagemo.
Yeah. And
I hope we'll be and then I'll say, Elon, actually it's pronounced Fagemo.
Oh, okay. Is that actually what it is? Or are you
no, I don't know.
You're just guessing?
But we'll see if he forces us to learn.
Well, then you'll probably be well, Elon, if you had a memory, we talked about him last week. Why are you asking me?
He's Swedish, by the way. I included him in the Italian. So there's one swing and a miss.
What's the Swedish food like? I don't even know. What's a good Swedish dish? I could name
you
10
just think of
amazing Italian
you think of the
ones.
meatballs because of IKEA.
Okay,
and you've got a smorgasbord.
Oh yeah, I think I'm more into the Italian food.
We need a culinary tour of Sweden.
Okay, let's go to the Leafs.
Oh, they have some crazy pizzas.
Sweden?
Yeah,
I'll take the Italian.
One of our patrons once upon a time was sharing us a completely wild menu of the pizzas available in Sweden. They did not qualify as pizzas based on the toppings.
Well,
there's something like banana. Oh
get
my
outta
gosh,
here.
I gotta look this up. Okay, I'm gonna work on this.
Sorry to the Swedish listeners, but
that's rude.
That's like the Quebec like spaghetti pizza.
Oh,
it's like enough.
Elon, don't mess with pizza. Elon will be mad at you. Just pizza-getti is what Elon's referring to.
Waste my time.
Oh, okay, Sham said, are they the ones that put bananas on pizza? Okay, I'm looking it up.
I'm also gonna throw it out there. If your like main food is meatballs, like what's a meatball? It's just like a ball of meat. It's like I think you need to
the way they're made. There's like a sauce.
Yeah. Okay. So it's so really they should like say they're famous. They should rebrand. Like we're famous for our meatball sauce. Not like just taking a bunch of meat and shoving it together and like this is our
it's a lingonberry sauce.
Okay, let's go to Toronto. Okay, another chalk team is going exactly like I would have expected. Matthews, Marner, Bertuzzi, Tavares, Nylander, Domi. Everyone was all nervous. Drink a couple drafts about Nylander on the third line. Not anymore. Okay, maybe he'll go back there at some point. Who knows? But I think don't worry about Nylander. Okay, top power play exactly as you would expect for the forwards. Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Nylander. But still, as of yesterday, I don't know, the last time the lines were shared, it's still Klingberg on the top power play. He's done nothing in training camp. He's only played 2 games. He was hurt for, I guess, a bit, no points. But, Morgan Riley's played 4 preseason games, also no points. So Klingberg is still someone, grab him for sure. If he's available in free agency at this point, grab him because he's on the top power play in Toronto. Morgan Riley, oof, like that stock is down. Like who were we just talking about earlier that we were saying the stock is way down?
Letang?
Oh no, but worse. Like Letang is still like
Fantilli?
Good, I think. Well, I like Fantilli. Okay, I don't know, but there was someone else I feel like. But anyways, Morgan Riley, like, is it too crazy to say that he might not be rosterable in a lot of leagues? If he's not on the top power play, like how good is he even going to be? Was he like a 35, 40 point defenseman at best?
Well, I mean, we can do the math pretty easily. Like he's still going to be in a lot of he's still going to eat a lot of minutes at 5-on-5 and be able to put up some points. But yeah, like power play is going to be has been very key to Morgan Riley's success. And without it, I would be very concerned. I guess the question is like, how long can John Klingberg hold that spot? I'm just looking. Last year, Riley had 41 paced for 52 points. And that was with pacing for about 20 power play points. The year before, without his power play points, he would have been at 50 points too. So, okay. So I think Morgan Riley around 50 points without power play 1 deployment is like a start. But from power play 2, he put up like 5 to 10 power play points. So I'd still say Morgan Riley's rosterable, although it's going to be more frustrating than usual.
By the way, Jay Brew in the chat saying it's Fagamo. So we were saying Fagamo, but it's more Fagamo.
It was good. Fagemo. Yeah, I don't know what I said anymore. Thanks, Jay Brew. I appreciate that. Also, I can confirm that I went to Snopes.com, which confirms true that the pineapple banana curry topping trifecta is the most Swedish pizza there is, according to a social media campaign by the Swedish Institute and Visit Sweden. Thanks, Snopes. Yeah. Snopes is the greatest. Snopes, after all these years, like from the web 1.0, Snopes is like the most relevant, I think.
The most relevant what? Website?
Yeah, like one of the most relevant remnants of the web. So it used the web so well as like a myth busting to bust myths. Like that was a great idea. And it's as important today.
Yeah. Okay, Snopes versus IMDb. They've also been around a long time.
Ever since IMDb dropped their forms, they've been a little less useful.
Their forms? What was that?
They had forums where people would like discuss forums. Sorry. Yeah. But then they dropped them because they couldn't moderate them and all kinds of terrible things were being said in them because of the internet.
Yeah. I only ever use IMDb to see like what movies an actor was in. And so it's still,
right. Who's that person?
Yeah. Wasn't that person in that thing? Oh yeah, it was. I saw the Barbie movie and there were like all these, Dina and I watched the show Sex Education. And I was like, every single person in the Barbie movie were like, isn't that the person from Sex Education? And it always was. That show, I think that whoever did casting for the Barbie movie,
it must have been a connection.
Knows that show.
Or they casted one. They're like, oh, my friend is really good too. You should. They're just a tight crew. I use IMDb more often, but I value Snopes more.
Fair. Okay. I like Snopes as well, by the way. Yeah. I used to reference it a lot on my old podcast. But all right, let's move on.
Snopes.com.
Yeah, not a sponsor. We don't need to be. We'll advertise them for free. Let's go to Minnesota, Brian. So Jared Spurgeon is injured. Stinks for them. He's an important piece. Moderately important piece in fantasy, not even really, but I drafted him with like my last pick. I'm not even sad about it because now I could stash him and get someone else. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll get Spurgeon back and maybe he'll do something. If not, it was a last pick. So Kalen Addison has been on the top power play. If you want to go that way, look, I don't want to be all Kalen Addison, his rookie season wasn't worth much in fantasy, even when he was on the top power play. So he's worthless forever. Like, I'm personally not like super stoked and expecting big things, but you're a top power play with Kaprizov, right? So something could happen. Maybe he's improved. We'll see. He's the guy right now while Spurgeon is out. As far as the lines, again, nothing surprising. Kaprizov, Hartman, Zuccarello, Boldy, Eriksson Ek, Marcus Johansson. We mentioned on that draft episode we did, not the auction draft, but the one we did before with where we all took one player per team, that Marcus Johansson had a really strong ending of last season when he got to Minnesota and joined that line. So in its super deep league, maybe take a look. But other than that, like no big surprises here on Minnesota for me.
I saw one person who I can't remember, but like they said like, oh, like keep an eye on Rossi, like he might be doing it. And I was like, it was someone who I was like, I at least gave pause to the thought. So like I'll keep a side eye on Rossi to see what happens. As for Kalen Addison, yeah, like for anyone who's like, yeah, it's Addison season. Maybe it is. We've all been burned. I just don't know that he's ever going to be a guy who gets a more than a power play assist every other game with like one shot and one block or hit. So I think he's a tough roster just because the peripherals won't be there and the production won't be big enough to make up for the lack of peripherals. So just keep that in mind. But if you are looking for a power play quarterback to take a chance on, he's one of them.
Yeah, well, hey, there used to be another defenseman in the league who we were like, this person's really good for power play assists, but he doesn't shoot that much. So his value has like not that much until now, Brian, apparently. And like not only apparently, Quinn Hughes in Vancouver. What a preseason in 3 games, 3 goals. First of all, just even 3 goals in 3 games for Quinn Hughes is a lot. 12 shots, Brian, 12 shots in 3 games. That's 4 shots a game is what Quinn Hughes was doing in preseason. So people were saying his plan was to shoot a lot. He has acted on it in those 3 games. We'll see how it goes into the season. But man, if Quinn Hughes keeps this up and scores more goals and takes more shots, like anyone who drafted him in Cupful got like a huge steal. Like I should have taken him instead of Erik Karlsson probably if he's going to shoot this much. So I'm definitely jealous and sad that I didn't get him when I could have, like in later rounds. And we'll see what happens. But yeah, the Hughes shot and goal reign is starting. And we'll see how it goes. But yeah, the proof is in the pudding so far in the preseason. We'll see how he does in the regular season. But wowie. So maybe Kalen Addison can learn from him.
It's only preseason, but Quinn Hughes with those 3 goals, Elon, that's more than 10% of his career goal scoring output. 26 goals in 283 games so far. But hey, there's still room for Quinn Hughes to grow. Like this is going to be his age 24 season. And this is his second kick at the can of taking more shots. And maybe things were too messy last year in Vancouver for him to follow through on that. So I'm interested to see 4 shots a game is a number that doubles his shot rates last season. And if you did get Quinn Hughes, you probably got him at a bit of a, if you got Quinn Hughes just with his power play assists and he starts shooting, like his value goes way up, right? Like he falls as far as he does in leagues that count peripherals because the points are there. Like he pays for 80 points last season, 73 the season before, but that's it. That's all he does. So if he starts filling at least one other category, maybe by extension goals as well, then Quinn Hughes, yeah, could be a really great get at the draft table. Yeah, but we'll see.
Oh, and if you're listening to this and you know your league mates aren't listening to this, go make a trade for Quinn Hughes right now.
Okay. Well, okay. I'm trying to figure out
like if he was just drafted based on like his numbers last year.
Right. So are you suggesting that you would trade down?
Like I would trade down. Yeah, like I would trade someone who I took. Like I don't know if Brian, you have access to the ADPs right now, but I'm sure there were a lot of defensemen drafted ahead of Quinn Hughes that if he's a shooter, you would definitely want Quinn Hughes instead of them. And so, yeah, I would say try to get him from a manager that doesn't realize, like maybe someone just, got Quinn Hughes because it was next up in the list based on the rankings that they had, based on the projections that were based on last year's numbers. So I would try to get him. I'm excited. And maybe this is all just like a mirage. It's preseason. Maybe all those games were against teams that were easier to shoot against. We'll see. Okay, enough about that. Also,
Wait.
Wait.
Well, no, I think we should at least mention like
Okay.
where so Quinn Hughes went on average 62nd overall in the cupful. He actually went even later in tiers 2, 3, and 4. So the D that went ahead of Quinn Hughes. So tell me if you'd trade for Quinn Hughes. Mo Sider.
I'll take Hughes. Well, Sider's tricky, but probably I'll take Hughes.
Yeah, Sider, there's also some unknown. John
And
Karlsson.
Sider also has like blocks and stuff. John Karlsson's been very good. I haven't gotten to Washington yet. He's had a really good preseason. So, yeah.
And okay, here's a guy that I think I would trade for a big shooting Quinn Hughes. Adam Fox going at 38th overall on average. So like if you could, trade quote unquote down from Fox to Hughes and upgrade another piece commensurately.
Exactly.
You might be. Also, by the way, ADP
now you're cooking with gas.
now I wish I drafted Adam Fox just for the trade opportunity here. KKUPFL.com tools has our cupful ADPs, the smartest fantasy managers in the world. You can see how they were treating their drafts. And also you'll see all these other crazy tabs. Kevin, our cupful coordinator, has basically 7 post-draft analysis tools for couple. It's too late. The couple drafts are over. So this is now for next year that I'm plugging, or you can get on the wait list to take over a team in need of a manager, which there will be. And we would love to have you.
We already had to give 2 teams away today.
Karlsson. Yeah. Crazy. Draft a team, walk away. What? That doesn't happen. But that's out of what? We're up to 660 managers roughly. Anyway, you can see how you did in your draft, how who your biggest reach was, who your biggest steal was compared to the rest of the ADP. You can find the other similar teams, the teams that did the most similar picks to you. You can compare how you did versus others who drafted from the same position. It's amazing. It's like a wealth. It's what you wish. It's what Yahoo says they'll offer you post draft with Yahoo Plus, but it's actually interesting and fun to look at. So all those tabs that you see, that's it's not for you, but you can play around and try to plug in Elon's team to see how he did.
Yeah, well, it's for you if you played in the couple. Maybe a lot of people don't realize it's there, so go check it out if you did play.
Definitely. Yeah, I would hope but if you don't,
Kevin.
Okay,
Kevin is amazing.
Frickin' Kevin,
man,
Kevin the Wizard Haybear.
Should we have a moment of silence of thanks? Do you do that? Do you do moments of silence of thanks for people, or is it only just
so?
That's more for if you're mourning.
Do you he's still thankfully with us.
Well, yeah.
This is getting dark. Do we snap?
I didn't mean it to be dark. Maybe you should just have a moment. Why does a moment always have to be so dark? Why can't we just take a moment to reflect on how lucky we are to have this person in our life? Isn't that a good use of a moment of silence?
Yeah. Usually I think you just do that alone, but you're asking for a group moment.
Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, let's go. Oh, actually, on Vancouver, I was going to mention the lines, I guess. Kuzmenko, Pettersson, and Garland has been the top line lately. Miller centering Besser, and I wrote PDG, which I think is Phil DiGiuseppe. Yes, it's Phil DiGiuseppe has been on that second line. By the way, DiGiuseppe, 2 multi-point games in a row now to end training camp. Maybe he holds this spot with Miller and Besser. If you're in a super deep league, I think he hits. Also, remember Connor Garland? Remember when Connor Garland was a really big deal, and we were talking about him he's definitely someone rosterable, and now he's on the top line. I mean, we all were. He's had 30, 40 goals one year in Arizona.
Oh, I'm gonna fact check that right there. That. I mean, anyway. there was a moment. He had 22 goals in 68 games. That's his best season.
Yeah, pace that out. It's huge. It's 80 goals. So, anyways, Connor Garland now top line. And I don't care. All this to say, it's wild that he's playing with Pettersson, and I'm I see him in my free agency. I don't even know if I'm going to put a bit. I'd rather have DiGiuseppe. I don't know. I'm just low on Connor Garland. We'll see.
I would take Garland playing on the top line over PDG.
I mean, what is the top line? I mean, if you're playing with JT Miller or you're playing with Elias Pettersson, it's equal, pretty close.
And anyway. Kuzmenko and Besser are equal?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, well, okay. Besser, by the way, he's someone to look at. They talked about it on short shifts. He's been on the top power play. Did you say?
Yeah. It's oh boy. Look out. Boy.
5 assists in 4 games for Besser in the preseason. I think he's really good. He's definitely rosterable. He's someone that might be a steal. Let's go to Montreal. So they just played against the Sens, and we had a new guy on the top, another third wheel to add to the list with Suzuki and Caulfield. There was a guy that we saw there last year, Raphael Harvey Pinard, got another shot on the top line. If he stays there, he'll be just as good as he was at the end of the last season, which was Yeah, pretty darn good. Like he was a little bit of a guy that a lot of people were rushing to grab for the fantasy playoffs last year. So we'll see if that holds. That left Kirby Doc to center Slavkovsky and Newhook. That's a pretty crazy line. Highly drafted guys that so far have been disappointing in their careers. Maybe Kirby Doc is starting to change that narrative. Slavkovsky, I guess it's still a little too early to say, but people were hoping for more last year. But anyway, that leaves like a Sean Monahan in the bottom six, but Monahan's been on the top power play. Brian, let's say, okay, I think we talked about this on another team. Let's say, we talked about in Chicago. Okay, outside of Suzuki, Caulfield, and Matheson, who's like a hab that you would want? Is it Raphael Harvey Pinard or is it someone else?
Do I have to pick someone?
Well, I don't know. Let's say you did.
Yeah, I think it's probably Harvey Pinard. Like Doc, we have to wait and see if he can be productive as a center. Like he has potential in his wingers this season with Slavkovsky and Newhook, which he didn't have much potential in his wingers last season. So maybe there's more upside for Doc as a center now. He would have been the other, like the next best piece. So I don't. I'll just go Harvey Pinard because he's playing on the top line.
Yeah, and it's like the top line with Nick Suzuki, who had 7 points in his 4 preseason games. So I feel like we haven't seen the best from Nick Suzuki yet, and maybe the best is yet to come. Maybe it's this season. We'll see. With if Caulfield stays healthy all season, maybe both of them are just about to go off, and this preseason is just a taste of what's to come. We'll see. Montreal's goalies are really bad, eh? Montembeault and Allen. Caden Primo has been good.
Yeah, Allen's supposed to be better, but last year was so it was bad enough to shake my confidence that he can be. And like he didn't have a great track record going into it either.
And he had a bad preseason now. This preseason has been bad. We'll see if Caden Primo's been like the David Riddick, the guy that's not supposed to make the team that now is like better than the 2 guys who were supposed to make the team. Oops. So we'll see. Montreal's like I was thinking about it. The Eastern Conference, like every team in the East is like going for it this year, right? Like they're all trying to make the playoffs. From the narratives you see and the moves they've made, except for Montreal. Like they're the only, like they've got it locked in last in the East. It's not even going to be close. Like so it would have to be a disaster for any, maybe Columbus, but even Columbus like feels like they're going for
Philly?
it. Oh yeah, Philly. I forgot about them.
Washington is like, Washington is at least still pretending.
Okay, Montreal and Philly. And maybe Columbus. Those are the worst.
I feel like
Montreal's the worst.
Yeah, I think Montreal and Philly are the ones who are like fully expecting like this is a bit of a tanky season, and Columbus is going to see how the first couple of weeks go.
I mean, looking at Philly, like let's go to them next. Their lines, like they've got some good players. Like I don't know how it all comes together, but it's like you've got they were rostering like Farabee, Couturier, and Bobby Brink on a line. Then Tippett, Frost, Atkinson, Konechny, Lawton, Cates. Like that's 3 decent lines.
3 lines.
So. Yeah. I don't know. They're really spreading things around. But.
Yeah, but it's also spread pretty thin, right? Like you look at who is actually reliable on each line, and like you've got Konechny on one line, and then like we don't know yet what we're going to see from Couturier or Atkinson or like Tippett, of course, on the up and coming. But we still don't know how reliable he's going to be either. And then you look at their defense. And like it's like, what are their first names? I mean, I know them, but it's a group of guys for sure. They're not trying this year. I don't know who they're tanking for. Like I forget who the
Celebrini,
yes, of course.
Or Yzerman, Cole Yzerman, but
right.
not spelled the same way.
Yeah, an important distinction to make. Yeah, so it's like Philly has these lines. It's like if all these guys play up to like their best runs that we've seen from them, or at least like sort of up to that, then like, yeah, this is like kind of a top 9. But there's also the possibility that they play to their downside, which is like rock bottom.
Is Forrester making the team? I just asked in the chat here. I just wrote Forrester and hoping someone will know what I mean. Like if Forrester makes the team, he potentially is like top line, top power play. He was on the top power play in the last game. Ahead of Owen Tippett, which I know a lot of people drafted Tippett super high after the Dom Lucic bump. But I would like that would stink if he's not even on the top power play. But obviously we'll see. Maybe like Forrester doesn't make the team. We'll have to find out.
Yeah.
Cam
and
York,
do we know?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna actually just ask who was the defenseman on the top power play?
Cam York.
It's been Cam York over.
He hasn't even been that good. 1 assist in 3 games.
I think he's like a Kalen. Like my sense is that he's a Kalen Addison type. So even if he does quarterback the top unit, I just don't know how interested I want to be.
All right, we still have a few teams to go here, Brian.
Oh,
let's do this. But these are all teams I have no surprises pretty much. St. Louis, Buchnevich, Thomas Kyrou, and then Saad, Shan Kapanen, and then Verana, Hayes, Blay. That's a fun third line, eh? You like Hayes. You like Vrana. I like
You like
Blay.
Blay.
So we're set.
We love this line.
The top power play has been Torrey Krug, another guy you like, Brian. I know people were able to get super late in drafts. It looked like he was going to be injured, but Krug is back and with great players, right? Krug, Kyrou, Thomas, Buchnevich, and Shen. So we'll see how long Krug could stay healthy. It's a good spot. Falk, I'm not too worried about him, again, because of Krug's health. But second power play has been Falk, Hayes, Vrana, Saad, and Blay. I'm just going to throw it out there. Sammy Blay. If your league counts hits, he's playing with Vrana and Hayes, and he's on the second power play. It's not that bad. He's going to be like a 40-point guy that gets like 200 hits. So I'm calling it now.
Loves Sammy Blay.
He's so good. So good for what he costs. But okay, let's go now. He's going to make $1 million this year. He's really good. All right, let's go to Washington. Okay. Ovechkin, Backstrom, Oshie. I'm just reading you lines right now. Okay. So it's been Backstrom and Oshie, but that's also changed around so much throughout preseason. So who knows? But Backstrom back there with Ovechkin, just like good old days. Kuznetsov with Wilson and Connor McMichael, and then Dylan, I should say, Strome on the third line in the last practice. Dylan Strome was also not on the top power play in the last game. It was Backstrom, Oshie, Kuznetsov, Ovechkin, and John Karlsson. So I wonder if maybe Dylan Strome was a little bit overhyped. I think a lot of people thought he was like the lock to be with Ovechkin in all these situations. And that's clearly not, it could happen eventually, but it's definitely not a lock. Maybe it's Backstrom and Kuznetsov that are the two centers you should have drafted when you were drafting Dylan Strome. We'll see.
Yeah, like Backstrom is a tough draft too, right? Like he's like the forward version of Quinn Hughes, and he's on like the other side of his career where like you just think like, okay, that 1 shot per game or the 1.5 shots per game is going to become 1 shot per game. This is Backstrom's age 36 season. He's only played about, well, not even 85 games or so in the last 2 seasons. Yeah, I mean, he seems like a painful roster. Like last year, Backstrom in 39 games took 59 shots and had 21 points.
Yeah, I'll stop you here. I'm not recommending to grab Backstrom. I would grab Kuznetsov though, potentially.
Okay, I thought what you were saying was instead of Strome, we should have picked Backstrom.
Well, I'm kind of saying whatever. I'm just saying Strome was overhyped, and maybe you should have gotten either. Like
maybe if he stays where he is, yeah, that's definitely the takeaway from these line rushes. And if Kuznetsov did somehow fall into free agency, which I think in one of my leagues he did, but it's a shallow enough league that I'm not going to go jumping for him now. But in some leagues, he still might be worth it. So yeah, take a second look and make sure you didn't leave behind a guy that was worth grabbing.
By the way, Brian, are you going to tweet at Dom to let him know about John Karlsson and his 5 points in 3 preseason games? Be like, no, I got something to say.
I know Dom knows.
I'm sure he's thinking about you a lot right now. And like, oh man, Brian was right. Okay, let's go to Vegas, our reigning Stanley Cup champions, who are super boring because they just won the Stanley Cup, and they're a lucky cup winning team because they didn't lose a lot of players like what usually happens. They're able to come back with pretty much the same team. They don't have Riley Smith anymore. And aside from that, look what we got here. Barbashev, Eichel, Marsh, so same top line. Stone, Stevenson, Cotter. That's what they were going with. I don't remember if it was Cotter or someone else, but those have been the top 2 lines.
It was Howden.
Well, he's around too. So yeah, so they got the same crew. Top power play for what it's worth in the last game. Stone, Marsh, so Stevenson, Eichel, and Shea Theodore, not Pietrangelo. So we'll see if that lasts. But Theodore fell in drafts, and that changes so much throughout the year, but could be good value there.
We'll see.
On that power play.
Yeah, and Shea Theodore finished the year on that power play. So if he starts the year and stays there, like I almost wonder if the like if it's over, if the back end, like for sure, it's we're not going to call it already. But if you have Pietrangelo, like hopefully there's still enough 5-on-5 production plus peripherals that he's worth it. And I think that was sort of the caveat. If you did go ahead and draft Alex Pietrangelo, like you had to be ready for him not to be on the top power play. But with the time that Theodore has been spending in preseason quarterbacking that top unit, it's hard to imagine that he is shuffled off that unit for like to trade places with Pietrangelo the way they've done for the past couple seasons.
By the way, Marchessault has picked up from where he left off in the playoffs. 7 points in 3 preseason games. Eichel also 7 points in 3 preseason games. I'm pretty stoked about Marchessault this year. I think this is the year when he finally stops being the 60 to 65 point guy. I think he, Eichel, and Barbashev. Like Barbashev, I don't think is going to go insane, but I think those 3 have got something going. I could see Marchessault getting back to like 75 points this year. I don't even think that's like that interesting of a prediction, but I feel pretty good about it. Okay. Assuming Eichel stays healthy.
Yeah, well, we used to call Marchessault like ready for that. Like, you know, he had 80 points with Vegas his first year there. And that was after 56 points in Florida. And then he had a couple 60-point seasons. But my take on him had been like, we should see 70. And then he eventually did get back there. And then last year was like back on the low end of 60. So I think 70 is still a good expectation. Is heading into his age 33 season. So guys generally don't get better at this point. And there's
but
been
what if they play with Jack Eichel all the time?
Yes, Elon, there's been a slight decline in his shot rates too. Maybe that is a product of playing with Eichel all the time. I don't know. Well, we'll see how things. Yeah, we'll see. I know you're hyped on him. So like you're expecting point per game.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, he was more than that in the playoffs. He's destroying the preseason.
Yeah.
He's on the top power play. No, I think Vegas used to really like have even 2 power plays. It really seems like now they just have a top power play, and Marchessault's right there. I just feel like all the pieces are in place for him to really have a great season. Along with Eichel.
Yeah, not to come up like the upside is absolutely there. I'm with you. We'll see. Like I think the floor is nice for Marchessault and the upside is great. So he's going to be a fun one to watch this year.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's a guarantee, obviously. Stone and Barbashev have also been
Elon, how many now you need to disclose how many Marchessault stocks you have.
I have a couple. That's it.
There you go. That's all the stocks.
That's the main stock.
That's the NY. What are the stock markets called?
NY, Dow? The New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
Oh, the Dow. I don't even know what those are.
What's the bigger one?
That's like a collection. Isn't Dow like a collection of a bunch of stocks?
Oh, an index.
I don't know. Okay.
All
By the way, neither Hill or Thompson, for what it's worth, have like been running away. Like both of them have been like average in the preseason. So we're still waiting on that's probably just going to continue into the season, like not knowing who's the starter. So we'll see. I have 2 teams left, Brian, San Jose and Dallas. I really don't have much to say about either of them. San Jose, I guess the most interesting thing is that they've been running 5 forwards on the top power play. So all of our wasted breath on like trying to figure out which defenseman would be there. Turned out it was nobody, at least to start. So we'll see. The lines are boring.
Elon, can I? Yeah. Okay.
You go ahead. You say something about San Jose.
I thought I had seen a more recent exhibition stat line for Henry Thrun, who like had a couple, like his first 2 preseason games, he had 2 goals, 2 assists, and 7 shots. And a couple of those points came on the power play too. And he was on the top unit. But of course, like that was early preseason, but I thought I can't find it now. I thought there was an earlier, or a more recent preseason contest that he did, like that he had another pretty solid stat line in. So, I don't know. Maybe. Like I'm watching him even with this 5 forward power play, which includes like who are the 5, Elon? Just as it be Granlund, Duclair, Barabanov, Hoffman, and Hurdle. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, and Couture is injured, I should mention.
Yeah. So I just like I'm trying to think like which of these guys do you not already roster that you're like should be interested in? And it's like, well, Hurdle is already rostered, and then Hoffman, Barabanov, Duclair, and Granlund are all probably pretty similar.
Yeah, I'm just like not into this team. I guess they'll get some points. I'm curious to see what Hurdle will be able to do with, like, he had a good preseason, 5 points in 3 games. But
hey, Erik Karlsson had 100 points with this team.
That's true. All right, and then Dallas is good. Just like it's the same. Like, don't worry about Dallas. Okay, like we know who's going to be good. We'll see what Duchesne does. Like Sagan has gotten some top power play time with some injuries, but like I don't know. It's fine. I got nothing for Dallas. And Brian, that's it.
You're not even going to mention Logan Stankoven?
Oh yeah, he's been. I know he's a super high pedigree guy. He's having a good preseason.
I actually don't know. Well, I'm just looking at the lines, and he's on a line with Evgeny Dadonov and Maverick Bork for this tweet's a couple days old already. But like that's I don't know. I actually, Elon, I'm sorry, I'm bringing his name up without any context of whether he's going to make the team.
Well, what made you think about him? You're like, why aren't you going to mention Logan Stankoven? And I thought it was because you liked what you saw.
Nope. I was premature. It's just a guy.
He's a really high pedigree guy that apparently is really, really good. So
well, it's interesting because he has that rep, even though he's like a middle second round pick from 2021. But like I think where he built his credit, like the World Juniors, and his upside is huge, right? So I think there's that. I'm looking at his preseason lines. He had no goals, no points, no shots against Dallas at Minnesota last night. But his first 2 preseason games, this is what I'm thinking of. He had 4 points, 2 goals, 2 assists, 6 shots. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as what he did, like if you look at his last 2 seasons in the WHL after he got drafted, you're looking at like almost 2 points per game in each of them.
That's like baseline though. That's like NHL
to be
bust
expected.
production. Jay Bruce clarifying Stankoven was sent to the minors. All right.
Yeah. But one day he'll be good.
Smell you later.
He's in like the top 30 in Corey Pronman's list of like top players under 23 for whatever that's worth. Okay, Brian, this has been so fun. We did it. We went through every single team. We gave interesting takes, I think. I always love talking to you. I always love talking to the live patrons that hang out with us while we're doing this. And to all the listeners out there, hope you enjoyed the show. This is what you can expect every single week when Brian and I get behind the mic to recap everything that's been going on in the week, give you some players that we're into, some players that we might not be as into. So make sure you're subscribed to Keeping Karlsson. We're going to keep doing this all freaking season long. I'm so excited to actually get going here. But yeah, like I said, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you get everything, including Short Shifts episodes coming twice a week to keep you up to date mid-week. It's going to be so much fun. If you could give us a 5-star review to start things off on the right foot, that would be nice. If you're a new listener, you like the show, give us the review. Okay. It helps us out. We've mentioned the Patreon a couple times. We'd give it all to the patrons, right? We say $5 a month. We don't have a bunch of different tiers. We have a tier called Super Supporter, which is literally just we call you a super supporter. And we thank you for that. And we really appreciate our super supporters.
And
but
you
like
get a special color on our Discord server.
That's true. You do get that cool color. But yeah, we give everything to our patrons that we have. So you get in the Discord, you get extra podcast, whatever else we come up with. Okay. It's a lot of fun. So keepingkarlsson.com/patron if you want to give us some support. But with that, Brian, let's finish this off here. Let's cue the outro music. Why don't you go ahead and read us the credits?
All right. This episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast was presented by Dobber Hockey and powered by our patrons, including those aforementioned super supporters, Roman, Don, Michael, Patrick, Aaron, Ivan, Sammy, Andrea, Zach, Tom, Ryan, Derek, David, Rob, Max, Ricard, and number 1, Patty. Thank you to Kevin Hebert. Again, a moment of brief silence for our cacuffle coordinator, Kevin Hebert. Just like we're very excited about the cacuffle this year, as you've heard. kkupfl.com for more info. There's just tools there. Like, learn from the best. All right. If you're not playing with the best, you can still learn from us. Elon Shams still crushing it over at gamedaytweets.com. Everything you need to know is there. You can follow our Short Shifts crew at Short Shifts KK on Twitter, and like make sure to keep your ears peeled for some really great episodes coming up, because they are ready to go for another season of content, midweek content. Logo art by BrandonWeeb.com. Outro music by Pat Roach. This episode was researched with help from Dobber Hockey, Frozen Tools, Dobber Prospects, Natural Stat Trick, Evolving Hockey, Cap Friendly, The Athletic, HockeyGoldies.org, Hockey Reference, Hockey Viz, Hockey Database, Elite Prospects, and Yahoo.
Great job, Brian. So much fun. Like I said, looking forward to talking to you next week. I'm looking forward to coming up with my waiver claims tonight. And while I am pulling my hair out when I really should be going to sleep, what should I keep in mind?
Oh, yeah, you should definitely like keep in mind to make the right choice, because there is one objective right choice. And if you think long and hard enough about it, you will find it. But also do what you can to make sure that fantasy hockey this season and every season is for everyone.
Wow. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
I see, I noticed the increased relaxation tonight.
What does that mean?
Well, you have nowhere to run.
Oh, Dina's asleep because she's sick.
Yeah.
But,
well, I didn't want to like spell it out completely, but
it's not like that relaxing, because I need to like edit and get this show out and get to sleep myself, because today was intense, like a full day of doing it all basically on my own.
Yeah.
And it's probably coming again.
You're amazing.
Oh, you stop. Stop. Take a moment of silence, though, if you really think so.
And I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, we'll patron meetup Thursday.
We have a patron meetup Thursday,
and I'll maybe see you sooner.
Do we have some separate plans yet? Did we ever?
We should make them. We don't. We should make them. Yeah, let's do it.
That's embarrassing.
Let's do that offline, though. Probably.
You don't want to like compare schedules now for everyone?
I should probably go.
I could share my calendar.
Do you want to share your screen?
I would not share. No.
Okay. All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks, Brian.
Bye.
See
Thanks
the patrons in Ottawa.
Here.
See the Ottawa patrons on Thursday.
Woo.
We're going to buy a round, right? First round on us.
We're going to do some kind of good guy shenanigans.
Or nachos.
Sure.
Nachos on us.
We could either buy a round of drinks or like all the food.
Ooh. Okay.
Think
figure it
about
out.
which one would make you feel like a better guy,
We could do both.
like a cooler good guy.
How about the
Okay,
fewer people that come, the more likely it is we could just do both.
that's oh yeah. All right, now people are gonna try and discourage everyone from coming.
All right.
I
See
was
you,
there. I was there
everybody.
at the last one. Brian smelled terrible.
Really? Oh, I get the joke. Okay. I gotta go. See
Okay,
ya.
bye. I smell great.
Probably.